I will eat your leftist ass like corn on the cob. I'm ready. I will eat your ass. I will eat your leftist ass like corn on the cob. I'm ready. I will eat you. I will eat your ass. I'll barbecue your ass flat. I will cook your ass up so fast, and I'll tell them, "Oh, I killed a cow out back, baby." You think Christ would eat somebody? He would never do that. I will. I'm ready to hang them up, gut them, and skin them, and chop them up. You know what? I'm ready. I will eat your leftist ass like corn on the cob. I'm ready. I will eat your ass. I will eat your leftist ass like corn on the cob. I'm ready. I will eat you. I will eat your ass. I will eat your leftist ass like corn on the cob. I'm ready. I will eat your ass. I will eat your leftist ass like corn on the cob. I'm ready. I will eat you. I will eat your ass. That's why I want the globalists to know. I will eat your ass first. I swear to God, if it's the last thing I do, I'm going to get my hands around your throat.
Good morning, my beauties and bees. Welcome to another wonderful installment of Live from the Hive. It is Saturday morning. It is currently 8:37 a.m. here where I am in the mountains of the western United States. I don't know where it is, where you are in your little neck of the woods, but thank you so much for joining us. Good morning. Let me say good morning to everybody I see so far. A little slow trickling in today, but hopefully you get a good turnout. Rainbow Ash is here. Sandy is here. Captive Desk is here. John Hudson is here. Good morning. Good morning to all you fam. There's Captive Desk Dave, my unfinished business. John Fabiano is here. And it looks like Dr. Ben is in the house. Hello. Good morning. Dr. Ben had a double stuffed burrito this morning. He should be doing pretty good. I wanted to show you all my new toy. Look at this. This was a birthday present from Ben, actually. It is an alien coffee cup, but it also is for smoking. So, like that. There's nothing in it right now. Anyway, yeah, good morning. Good to see everybody. Thank you so much for dropping by. This morning is going to be a good show, I think. It almost feels like a Halloween show because of what we have on the docket. Let me show you what we're working with here. So, as far as the subjects we're covering today, is it this one? Yeah. All right. So, let's start with CrypticCorner. So, CrypticCorner, we have our four choices were Loab, which is the world's first AI created cryptid. It's a cryptid that allegedly appears in AI art. So we're gonna explore that. We still got Oscar, the Beast of Busco, that giant snapping turtle from Indiana, to explore. The basically a little lake monster. Then we have the Nandi bear, which is an African cryptid, some kind of carnivore from Africa that resembles a bear, but after the Atlas bear, which lived in North Africa, went extinct. There's no bears in Africa, so that's an interesting topic. But today, what we picked was the spooky, scary skeletons, which is about this Canadian tradition of skeletal beings tormenting and haunting the living, I guess is the best way to describe it. But anyway, that's what we're going to be covering today in Cryptic Corner, just here in just a couple minutes. After that, there's my pretty face, though. Look how it looks just like that. Hold on. No, I can't even do that angle or the lighting or anything. But then we had our Weird With It poll. Now, Charming the Serpent is still on the list. If you're interested in debunking some snake charming myths, we'll pop that open and look at it. Got healing waters. There's so many famous springs out there, and we're going to explore a few of them and discover what their healing properties are. And of course, the sky trumpets being heard as a sign of the end times, right? We got that. But this week, we're doing the supernatural serial killers, which is going to involve psychic detectives finding serial killers. It's going to involve serial killers with their link to the supernatural and Satanism and the occult and all that stuff. We got a few dozen videos to look through. We won't get through them all, but we're going to go through them. And then after that, reached out to Dr. Don Prothero and got permission to use his parade of prehistoric life videos. So we're gonna spend the summer doing that. So that's we're gonna put Breeze Bestiary on a back burner for now. We're gonna do some more paleo peak, but we're gonna do it with Don's content, and it's gonna be fun. He's got a lot of great videos. And, I'm just want to help him get a little traction on them. Anyway, good morning. So that's our polls, and that's my coffee. And let me see. Anything else that we needed to cover before we get started on Cryptic Corner? Because we still got like 3 minutes. I'm trying to think if there's anything. Oh yeah, tonight is the El Paso is the big El Paso Pride thing. It's the El Paso Pride Crawl. So that's where we're going tonight. I'll be wearing this, so I look super cute in my trans rights are human rights t-shirt. I'm not so bloated in the tummy anyway. I feel bloated. But got a few hours before that, so I'll be all right. Anyway, yeah, trans rights are human rights. That's should not be controversial. Yeah, you were up. Yeah, I did enjoy the pool. I wasn't out in the pool for very long. It was nice though. And Henry got in, swam with us a little bit. Boat came out and swam. Ben came out, but he didn't swim. He just kind of hung out and talked with us. We got like a little patio area and everything. I say a little patio area. Our patio area is huge. And I know because I cleaned it the other day and it took all morning. It gets hot quick, so you got to get up super early if you want to do some cleaning. Yeah. All right. Well, I don't have any problem with popping into Cryptic Corner a couple minutes early. My problem with this shirt is it doesn't show off my cleavage, but it's semi-translucent or lucent, so you can, in the proper lighting, it's almost see-through. You can see it on my shoulders more. It's see-through through the whole thing, though. I just wear a black bra underneath it. It's super cute. Yeah. Patty, you think it'd be obvious trans rights are human rights, but lo and behold, people still get confused about it. All right. Who's ready for Cryptic Corner? I know I am. Let's go. Let's roll. Let's pop into it. Let's get some spookiness in our veins this morning. I will see you guys over there. Hello, my beauties and bees, and welcome to another installment of Cryptic Corner, where we explore the unexplained, the supernatural, the paranormal and hidden, the mysterious, the alien, the accursed, and the forbidden. I am your host, Miss Bumblebee, and welcome to the show. We do a lot of cryptozoology stuff here, but we're not strictly cryptozoology. We also enjoy a good ghost story, a good haunting spirit, a demon possession, a alien encounter. And so while cryptozoology is my love and my passion, it has a lot of baggage that comes with it from a lot of other areas of Fortean study. And one of the channels that I've covered before is this Hammerson Peters, right? Hammerson Peters does a lot of videos about Canadian folklore. It started off doing mostly stuff with like Bigfoot and things like that, and more traditional, Bigfoot stories. Like you see all the Bigfoot stories, Curse of Oak Island. But they start to branch out into other areas. We got giant owls. I think we watched that. At least I started watching, you can see. But Thunderbird stories from Canada. And then Beyond the Grave, the Chilling Tales. Now, he does pretty good documentaries. And, of varying length. But today, he's going to take us on an adventure with Skeleton Spirits of the North, Canada's creepiest legend. So I hope you're on board for this. Good morning, my unfinished journey.
Thorne said.
We need to start at the beginning,
though. Do you know what he
now.
looked like when he died?
So, let's start all the way back here.
In his excellent 2024 book, An Anthology of American Strangeness, Volume 1, my friend and fellow researcher Kevin Gould, who has started to publish his own impeccably researched stories in video format on his YouTube channel, American Strangeness, included a chapter on a strange specter.
Oh, let's do that. Let's subscribe to that channel real quick. I can do that. Oh, not that. This one. What was it called? Something Strangeness. Hold on. American Strangeness. Yeah, we'll have to come back around to that. But let's...
In video format on his YouTube channel, American Strangeness, included a chapter on a strange specter said to haunt California's Borrego Badlands in the wake of the California Gold Rush. The first sighting of this desert demon occurred sometime in the 1880s, when a prospector nicknamed Arizona Charlie was searching for gold between California's 17 Palms Oasis and southeasterly Superstition Mountain, beyond the western shores of the Salton Sea. As Kevin put it, something spooked Charlie's burros in the middle of the night, and he got up to quiet them. It was then, through the darkness, and about 200 yards east of where he stood, that Charlie saw an enormous skeleton.
Woo!
This
Let's get right into it. I love the stories watching. Oh yeah, this guy was camping. His burrow went crazy, and then boom, giant skeleton. Boom, giant skeleton. I have a couple hats. I'm gonna wear this one to the crawl tonight, but I have a pink one too. So I have this one. Depends on the outfit. This is like my pink pony girl hat. Pink pony girl. But y'all know I'm a gothy bitch.
Figure stood about 8 feet tall and rambled about drunkenly, as if unable or unwilling to keep a straight course. From the midst of its ribcage flickered an eerie light, which Charlie likened to the soft glow of a kerosene lantern. Before he had time to react, Charlie watched the strange
I almost
creature
forgot to show you guys. This is my new belt that I'm going to be wearing tonight too. Isn't that cool? It matches my necklace. You know, I have the spider necklace. It's kind of like my signature trademark thing. This scorpion matches and it glows the same too. I just remembered I had this and I wanted to show you guys. I gotta put a new hole in it though, because the largest size that they had apparently won't fit around my giant gut. But you know what? I have a nail. I have a nail and we're gonna make it happen.
A ridge and disappear from view. Throughout the succeeding decades, at least 6 other prospectors claim to have encountered the same frightening figure in the Anza Borrego Desert, always apparently wandering aimlessly, as if in search of something. Its path lit by either a lantern clutched by bony fingers, or a weird glow emanating from its latticed thorax.
Hot. He was a 12-foot tall spirit Halloween giant skeleton someone put out there. That'd be great. That'd be fantastic.
Incredibly, the unearthly image of an animated skeleton roaming the wilderness at night is not unique to the folklore of Southern California, but also recurs with surprising frequency in the legends of the Great White North. Undoubtedly, the most famous Canadian iteration of this international folktale is the legend of La Corriveau,
La
one of Quebec's
Corriveau.
spookiest and most beloved ghost stories.
Say it again, La Corriveau. It's right there on the bottom there. La Corriveau. It almost seems like it has the word corvid in it.
The tale revolves around the corpse of a French-Canadian woman hanged in 1763 for the murder of her husband, which once dangled from a gibbet at a crossroads on the southern shores of the St. Lawrence River opposite Quebec City. Legend has it that the centerpiece of this grisly display came to life at night to commit all manners of mischief, from harassing passing travelers to consorting with werewolves and warlocks. The tale of La
Your neighbor has one of those giant spirit Halloween skeletons. Nice.
Corriveau begins in 1749 during the French regime in the tiny rural settlement of Saint-Vallier on the southern banks of the St. Lawrence River near the Ile d'Orléans. On
Saint-Vallier.
November 17th of that year, a 16-year-old...
I'm practicing saying these French words. French is the word. I'm the worst at French. The Borrego Sandman got starved out. Not enough jerky in the desert, right? Well, that's a central theme to these skeletons. They are always very gaunt.
Old French-Canadian girl named Marie-Joseph Corriveau married a 23-year-old farmer named Charles Bouchard. Their union produced 3 children, 2 daughters and a son, before Bouchard's life was tragically cut short by what was initially supposed to be a battle with typhus in the spring of 1760. A little more than a year after the death of her first husband, Marie-Joseph married again, this time to a local farmer named Louis Daudier. On the morning of January 7, 1763, after a year and a half of childless marriage, Daudier was found dead in his barn, apparently having been kicked in the head by his horse. The young widow
Horses do that from time to time.
wasted no time in burying her second husband's mutilated remains, leading locals to suspect that she had a hand in his death, and perhaps in the untimely demise of her first husband as well. Rumors from Saint-Vallier soon reached the ears of British authorities, the British having governed the region since the conquest of Quebec 3 years prior. A military tribunal held in Quebec City concluded, on the weight of witness testimony, that Marie-Joseph's father, Joseph Corriveau, had murdered his son-in-law. The old man was promptly sentenced to death by hanging. Marie-Joseph was convicted of accomplice to murder, and her cousin, Isabelle Sylvain, was convicted of perjury for...
You want to kick people in the head? Is that what you're telling us, Maya?
providing testimony which conflicted with the official verdict. While receiving the sacrament of reconciliation in preparation for his execution, Joseph Corriveau confessed to Father Augustin Louis de Glapion, Superior General of the Jesuits in Quebec, that Louis Daudier had actually been murdered by his daughter, Marie-Joseph, and that he had accepted the sentence laid upon him without protest in order to spare her from the gallows. Glapion advised the penitent that it would be sinful to permit...
Would you confess to a murder committed by your child? I think I might. I don't know. Depends on the circumstances, I suppose.
...his niece to unjustly receive punishment for perjury, which entailed public scourging and branding with the letter P, and to allow his daughter to escape the consequence of her crime.
I'm glad we moved away from branding criminals with, branding criminals, literally. I mean, it's one thing to be like on your clothes or whatever, like, oh, you wear this scarlet A because you're an adulterer. That's one thing, which is terrible. It's another thing. It's like, oh, I'm going to scarify your body so because you committed this crime. Holy crap. Shit gets dark.
On the priest's urging, Joseph Corriveau brought his evidence to the British authorities. A retrial was held, during which Marie-Joseph Corriveau was determined to have murdered her husband in bed by splitting his skull with a hatchet. The murderess was sentenced to death and was executed by hanging on April 18, 1763, near the Plains of Abraham, on which the British had won Quebec 3 years prior. Her body was ferried across the St. Lawrence River, placed in an iron cage, and suspended from a scaffold at a crossroads
Seems a little excessive.
near Point Levis, as a warning to criminals. As it fell into decay, local rumor grew that La Corriveau.
This is usually what I imagine, like the old situation where where women didn't have their autonomy, so they had to come up with interesting ways to get a marriage, like murdering their husbands. People don't realize how much no-fault divorce saves so many lives. Like, we might not have a Le Corriveau legend at all if Canada had no-fault divorce, where a bitch could have been like, fuck this guy, and got rid of him instead of having to bludgeon him in the head. But sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do.
As the corpse came to be known, came to life at night, and descended from her gibbet to commit unholy deeds, probably owing to a pact that Marie-Joseph had made in life with the devil. Interest in the old legends was revived in 1851, when the cage was accidentally disinterred from its final resting place in unconsecrated ground outside the church graveyard of Saint-Joseph-de-Lévis. Decades later, when a handful of French-Canadian nationalists took it upon themselves to immortalize
John Joseph. Yeah, I gotta show you guys my boots, because I love my boots. I got new boots to go with this outfit. And they got spiders on them. Spiders. And they're cowgirl boots. Yeah, sexy AF. And perfect for me. I lost my vape, so I'm going to be looking for my vape while this guy talks.
tales of their homeland in literature. The legend of La Corriveau was set down in ink. In his 1863 book, Les Anciens Canadiens, or Old-Time Canadians, Quebecois lawyer Philippe-Joseph Albert de Gaspé described the fictional account of a run-in with La Corriveau, which, though colored by the subtly humorous, tongue-in-cheek dramatic irony that seems to typify French-Canadian conte, succeeds in capturing the essence of the legend. In his book, a traveler tells his companions the tale of his father's encounter with a specter many years earlier, saying in French, "It happened one day that my late father, who is now dead, had left the city for home somewhat late. He had diverted himself a little, so to speak."
Yeah, movie theaters it's like you know, you stream stuff in your living room. It's like that, except for it's at a public place with a bunch of people. That's movie theater. It's weird. It's from like the 20th century kind of retro style. Something holdover from pre-COVID. What drove her to madness if and she actually did it? That's the thing, right? That is the thing. I don't want to speculate she was in an abusive relationship, but yeah, that happens. Surprising how many husbands stopped randomly poisoning themselves.
His acquaintances in Point Levis.
After no-fault divorce. Exactly. And it also keeps us women from having to turn into spooky, scary skeletons in our iron cages hanging at the crossroads. Could you imagine if I had to be hanging in a cage at a crossroads instead of here doing this show for you just because I was being abused by my husband and I poisoned him or murdered him or bludgeoned him or kicked him in the head with a horse?
Like an honest man, he loved his drop, and on his journeys he always carried a flask of brandy in his dogfish satchel. They say the liquor is the milk for old men. It happened that it was quite dark when my father at last got under way. His friends did their best to keep him all night.
You know, the truest stories always start with I was pissed drunk and stumbling through the woods at night in the dark. Those are the best stories and the truest stories.
Telling him that he would have to pass, all by himself, the iron cage wherein La Corriveau did penance for having killed her husband. You saw it yourselves, gentlemen, when leaving Point Levy at 1 o'clock. She was quiet then in her cage, the wicked creature, with her eyeless skull. But never you trust to her being blind. She is a cunning one, you had better believe. If she can't see in the daytime, she knows well enough to find her way to torment poor folks at night. Well, as for my late father, who was as brave as his captain's sword, he told his friends that he didn't care, that he didn't owe La Corriveau a farthing, with a heap more reasons which I cannot remember now. He put the whip to his horse, a fine brute that could travel like the wind, and was gone in a second. As he was passing the skeleton, he thought he heard a noise, a sort of wailing, but as a heavy southwest wind was blowing, he made up his mind it was only the gale whistling through the bones of the corpse.
Which is how the undead communicate with the living, through whispers on the winds and electronic voice phenomena, don't you know? But this was before electronic voice phenomena, so La Corriveau is working with what she has. Give a bitch a break. She's stuck in a cage. She doesn't got a lot of resources.
Give him a kind of start, nevertheless, and he took a good pull at the flask to brace himself up. All things considered, however, as he said to himself, Christians should be ready to help each other. Perhaps the
more I find out about La Corriveau, the more I like her. The more I like her, the more appealing she sounds to me. Get it, girl. Don't let the afterlife keep you from living your best life. And don't let these frickin' men to cross by without giving you your what do you like? It's like a sacrament or whatever, but yeah.
Poor creature was wanting his prayers. He took off his cap and devoutly recited a De Profundis for her benefit, thinking that, if it didn't do her any good, it could at least do her no harm, and that he himself...
Excuse me, Big Zebra. Not only has Kip Davis confirmed that there are giant skeletons in Canada, he has one right within walking distance of him. He confirmed it. It's there. It stands in his neighbor's driveway, hauntingly. So I don't know what you're talking about. No Canadians believe. This
would be the better for it. Well, then he kept on as fast as he could. But for all that, he heard a queer sound behind him. Tick-tack, tick-tack, like a piece of iron striking on the stones. He thought it was the tire of his wheel, or some piece of the wagon that had come unfastened. He got out to see, but found everything snug. He touched the horse to make up for lost time.
Oh, let's check and see if the sound prompts work. So, the first one I want to try. Okay, so if you do this, there's only a few of them. I'll see if it works. It did, yeah. And then we have this one.
Whew. Danger, danger, danger. Unbelievable.
That's some Steve Irwin. Danger, danger, danger. And then we have, and you can type these in too in the audience, just so you know. Don't type them in right now because I'm showing them. But the other one we have Howl. And then we have, what else do we have? Oh yeah, is it Swarm? One of the classics from that I brought back from before. Let me see, it is, yeah, Swarm. So when we get a troll, you can swarm them.
Bees! Bees! Bees everywhere! They're huge and they're sting crazy!
There you go. I hope you guys can hear those. I can hear them. Anyway.
Tick-tack, tick-tack on the stones. Being brave, he didn't pay much attention.
I love your dingo, Jason. You have the cutest dingo. You should bring your dingo to play with our African wild dog. Actually, your dingo's really a dingo. Our African wild dog's just a mutt. But he looked just like an African wild dog when he was a baby, didn't he, Ben?
The storyteller went on to describe how his father proceeded to take a nap on the side of the road at around midnight. Just as he was
As one does at midnight, it's like, you know what? There's a dead body up the road. Supposed to be haunted. It was screaming at me when I drove by. Perfect time to take a nap.
Off, he spotted, out of the corner of his eye, a cluster of weird lights
Love you,
flickering
D.
on the neighboring Ile d'Orléans. Upon closer examination, he discovered that a witch's sabbath, or occult ritual, was being
What?
performed on the island by a band of goblins. There he was, dear man, the storyteller said of his father, with his eyes bigger than his head.
I never get invited to that shit. Does that still happen in Canada? I love goblins. I mean, don't get me wrong. If I could party with some goblins, we're going to be fucking partying. Goblins know how to party.
Daring to budge. Presently, he thought he heard behind him the tic-tac, tic-tac, which he had already heard several times on the journey. But he had too much to occupy his attention in front of him to pay much heed to what might pass behind. Suddenly, when he was least expecting it, he felt two great bony hands, like the claws of a great bear, grip him by the shoulders. He turned around horrified and found himself face to face with La Corriveau, who was climbing on his back. She had thrust her hands through the bars of her cage.
Get him, girl! Woo! La Corriveau's my girl. I love you, babe.
And succeeded in clutching him. But the cage was heavy, and at every leap she fell back again to the ground with a hoarse cry, without losing her hold, however, on the shoulders of my late father, who bent under the burden. If he had not held tight to the fence with both hands, he would have been crushed under the weight. My poor late father was so overwhelmed with horror that one might have heard the sweat that rolled off his forehead dropping down on the fence like grains of duckshot.
Was the sweat dripping going tic-tac, tic-tac?
The storyteller described...
I do love me some gargoyles. Ghouls, though, ghouls are kind of gross because they eat dead bodies. They eat like corpses out of the ground. I mean, that's what it takes to be a ghoul. But I'm not trying to say there's anything wrong with ghouls per se. I'm just trying to say that me personally, I would not want to make out with somebody who had just eaten a rotten corpse. But I wouldn't make out with a goblin or a gargoyle. I may have made out with a gargoyle. I'm not going to answer any more questions about that, though.
How the skeleton asked his late father to carry her across the St. Lawrence so that she could dance with her friends on the Ile d'Orléans, as she was unable to cross the consecrated waters of the St. Lawrence without the assistance of a Christian. When the man refused, Le Corriveau proceeded to strangle him.
Take the girl to see her friends. Jesus Christ. This is you know, if they had Uber. Does Canada even have Uber? Does Canada have Uber? Because she could just get an Uber to go dance with her friends. She just have to. Can you request a Christian driver on Uber? I don't think you can. Let me look. Well, actually, you know what we'll do? We'll Google it. Can you request a Christian driver on Uber? No, you cannot request a specific driver based on religion on Uber. Well, how about Lyft then? No, Lyft does not allow riders to specify a request of drivers based on their religion. Damn it, Le Corriveau needs a Christian to get her across the river, and this guy's not being any help at all. Do I have any Christians in the audience that can go pick her up? I know I have some Canadians. She just wants to get over to a party her friends are having across the river. She doesn't have a ride. Like, hit me up if you'll be able to give my friend her. You won't miss her when you go pick her up. She's a skeleton in a cage. So yeah.
Him until he fell unconscious. He woke up the next morning lying in a ditch. Le Corriveau was back in her gibbet, inanimate once more, swaying softly in the breeze. At this, the storyteller concluded. He picked up his...
Sounds like she didn't get to go to the party because he was a dick to her. Just be cool. Can you just be cool with Le Corriveau and be like, babe, let me just take you over to your goblin friends. Then y'all leave me alone. I'll go on continue my journey. But no. He had to be a jerk about it. Now she's back in her cage. She's probably like pretty upset and pretty sad about the whole turn of events. Damn, I'm sexy. Look at that. Oh. But, what can you do? She asked for a ride, and he said no. But when I die, presumably I will be put in a cage similar to this, because I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm sure it's going to be epic enough to be publicly executed. So, when I become a skeleton ghost, and I need a ride across the river to go visit the goblins, what are y'all gonna say? Are you gonna give me a ride? I'm gonna do a poll. We do a poll right now. All right, there's the poll, so you all can decide.
His courage, and stretched out his hand to take a drink. But no such luck. The flask was empty. The witch had drained every drop.
All right.
Although La Corriveau was perhaps the most famous animated...
We're moving on from La Corriveau to the doppelganger of Carsdale, Nova Scotia, which does not... So far, I'm a La Corriveau stan. I would love to have, she sounds badass and like an amazing ghost. I would love to have, a poster or, a little sculpture of her or something. What I really need, though, is a Baphomet. I don't have a Baphomet sculpture, which I would like to have for my altar thing back here. Got aliens and stuff on it right now. But only 17% of y'all are saying no to giving me a ride to the Goblin Party. I hope if I go to the Goblin Party, maybe La Corriveau will be there and we can hang out. And maybe we'll hit it off. Maybe we'll vibe. What do you think? You think we could vibe? She killed 2 husbands, but she hasn't had a mommy yet. A gibbet ghost. Gibbet, that's the word I was looking for. I'll be putting a gibbet. Do you want to put me in the gibbet? All right, let me see what's going on in the chat before we get into this next topic, okay? I don't want to, I just want to hide the poll there. Okay. Let's see. Because that pretty much sums me up. A skeleton in a cage. Yeah, you could pull it off. Can I request a driver that has a dog and cat? That'd be great, wouldn't it? Yeah. Let's see. Anything else I missed? Love starting out the day with a big Z energy. Yeah, good deal. How to rule an asteroid. I'm in. Don't. Oh, okay. Are we planning a trip? I've been feisty all week. Being a bitch is my only outlet. I hear ya. Are you stirring shit, Maya? Good. Keep it up. I'll ride you. Give you a... Oh, Ryan. Are you going cow tipping, Kip? We used to try to do that when we were kids. The cows would always wake up and run from us, though. The Canadian goblins offer free glow-in-the-dark condoms. Hell yeah. It is a time for writing our righteous anger, honestly. I want a Baffy statue. I know, right? They're so cute. Have a great rest of the show, folks. Love you all. Would give Bree a ride if I could. Oh, are you bouncing, Asteroid? Have a good weekend. I'm going to the pub crawl tonight, so woo! It'll be fun. Am I all caught up? Yeah. No, I'm queen. Maya is a goddess. I'm the queen. And if we combine together, we're the queen goddess. Yeah, cow tipping's a myth. It's not actually something you can actually do. Yeah, well, in the way that Big Zebra's talking about it, you can give the cow a tip. They don't usually want money, though, but if you have like an apple or something, they'll be like thrilled about that. They like sweet stuff. I'm a Midwestern girl, and oh, yes, you can. I mean, no, you're right. Definitely cannot. Yeah, Maya and me are from, we actually grew up in the same part of the country, in the same little 500-mile circle in the middle of the U.S., between cornfields and little patches of forest and lots of rivers, because the Mississippi runs right through the middle of that circle. Good morning.
Skeleton, to prowl the shadowy byways of Canadian folklore. It is but one of many traditions which span the country, stretching from the Maritimes of eastern Canada to Vancouver Island at the country's western end. Nova Scotian folklorist Helen Craig...
Someone else tried to do the woo command. It's exclamation point WOL. I want to see if it works for if it works for everybody. Somebody do. I just don't want the music to be playing, but yeah, I give you permission to do the woo sound. It's the X-File theme or whatever, but I kind of want to see if it'll trigger the algorithm to say, hey, this is copyrighted music. It's really short though, and it's somebody's cover of it. But yeah, I don't care who does it. Just somebody type in. There you go. Thank you, Fox. It did work. Look at that. 62% of you all would give me a ride to the Goblin Party across the river. 25% of you are already at the Goblin Party. So with my chat right now, well, a couple people dropped off. It was sitting right around 24. So with about, if we're doing, that means that 6 of you are already at the Goblin Party. Did you save me a spot? I don't want to sit. I don't know. Maya's probably already there. Yeah.
Creighton included one such story in her 1957 classic, Blue-Nosed Ghosts. Creighton heard this chilling tale firsthand from a man named A.B. Thorne, who hailed from the settlement of Carsdale, near the western coast of the Nova Scotian Peninsula, on the Annapolis Basin, near the ancient settlement of Annapolis Royal. Mr. Thorne is a man of medium height, Creighton began, with blue eyes, an aquiline nose, and a rather sensitive mouth. Now probably in his 60s, he can still dig a garden or ditch in a way that would shame many a younger man. Yet with work to occupy him, and an excellent wife to take care of all his needs, he appears to be a singularly nervous man. This is little wonder, considering the experience of his youth which we had come to hear.
So he's got like what I'm getting here is a Ichabod Crane kind of vibe from him, like a nervous person. Okay, so we got Ichabod Crane character.
Proceeded to repeat Thorne's tale verbatim, related to her and her friend, poet Martha Banning Thomas, in the Thorne family cottage in the summer of 1947. Thorne explained that, when he was a young man, he had a good friend named Joe Holmes, with whom he spent much of his free time. Although Joe had distinguished himself as an exceptionally swift runner, he had a meager frame and a delicate constitution, which inclined
most fast runners do have a meager frame. I weighed, for most of my life, I weighed less than 130 pounds, and I was fast as a fucking deer, and over a long distance, too. I could run. I was just showing this off to my roommates earlier because it popped up on my feed. Up until I was about 35, I was easily doing an 8-minute mile without pushing myself too hard. I can't do an 8-minute mile anymore, but I probably could if I trained, but I'm lazy, and I like coffee, and I like weed, and I like junk food. So that makes it hard for me to get back into that runner build now that my metabolism is slowed down. But I am lean enough to outrun a skeleton, maybe, but I'm more lean enough to become a skeleton. This is why when I was a kid, I started learning archery, because nobody wants to be undead skeleton infantry. No, you do not want to be a skeleton foot soldier. Skeleton foot soldiers are weak as fuck. They go down in one hit, generally, and they have a lot of plus weaknesses to like bludgeoning damage. Anything that has a bonus +1 to the undead or anything like that skeleton infantry going down. They're just whoosh, you can like crumble a whole unit of them coming at you with like a single spell. Skeleton archers, though, skeleton archers have that ranged attack distance, right? They have, for whatever reason, because of their arcane nature, they have immaculate aim. They're out of range of most melee combat bludgeoning weapons, which have a higher damage to the undead. So, yeah, you stand back, you fire arrows, you're undead. You don't have to even worry about your ability to aim, your stats on your any of that stuff because it's all arcane. Anyway, that's just my thoughts on it. Skeleton archers.
The illness. One evening,
But that, of course, was before I knew I could be in a what was that thing called, a gibbet? I could be a evil woman ghost in a gibbet floating around. That sounds way cooler even than being the skeleton archer. Although, if I could optimally be anything, I'd be a lich queen, right? Like an arcane skeleton. Who's making weapons for these skeletons? I assume a skeleton archer can pull two of their ribs off and just go, and then like some sinew, and just fire.
In the early 1900s, when the two of them were about 20 years old, Holmes accompanied Thorne to a farmhouse, which lay between their two homes. This house, the residence of the Riordan family, served as the local post office, such arrangements being customary in rural Nova Scotia in those days.
That sounds like an achievable undead goal to me, Sumami. You follow your dream. You get those horses and scimitars. Are they going to be skeleton horses or regular horses?
And Thorne had to mail a letter. By the time the business was concluded, it was about 10 o'clock. It was a bright night with a full moon, Thorne said, and it was too nice to separate and go home so early. The Riordan's grass was about 3 feet high at that time, and there was a turnip field behind it. We heard a hoe strike against a rock, and it attracted our attention.
What you be striking against a rock for? Ho, you know who I'm talking to. Why are you striking that rock?
We sat forward then and looked, and to our surprise, we saw a thing come crawling on its hands and feet from the southeast corner of the house.
Fuck yeah!
Then it stood up, and we could see it was a man. We were on the lower or south side of the road, and it was on the upper or north side.
Fuck yeah!
Then it went out of sight. In the country, we often think a lot without saying anything, and anyways, there's often no need of
flaming skeleton horses? Hell yeah! Let's make that a thing.
Words between friends. So we just sat there and didn't say anything, and before long it came out again. We didn't move an inch, but we watched, and this time it came halfway across the road. The strange creature once again retreated to the corner of the house, then repeated its performance a third time, coming to a standstill beneath a cherry tree on the other side of the road. The specter watched the friends in silence, its features obscured by shadow, and the friends stared right back.
It's a skeleton man!
At the height of this eerie showdown, a handful of apple trees on the friend's side of the road
It's like a gaunt man. Yeah, basically.
trembled violently, as if shaken by invisible hands, loosing a cascade of apples, which thudded in the grass. Now thoroughly spooked, the two friends mutually agreed to head to Holmes' house, and took off down the road at a run. Although Holmes was the faster of the two, Thorne managed to keep up, spurred by the terrifying prospect of being left behind with the mysterious figure. When we got to his house, we stood in the road and talked, Thorne said. We were young men and curious, and we didn't like to leave it there, because
Curious. They were young men and they were curious. And they were just experimenting alone in the woods together. This is the Nova Scotia version of Brokeback Mountain.
it would always pester us, and we'd never know what we'd seen. It didn't seem like a prank, but if it was, we wanted to settle it. Finally, I said, "Let's go back. I'm not afraid." I wasn't either, so long as Joe was with me. Nothing was going to hurt the two of us, and besides, it's easy to be brave when you have company. We'll see what it is, I said. So we walked back, and pretty soon we saw it, and it was coming to meet us. I said, there it is. Don't leave me. As I said, I figured that with the two of us it couldn't do much harm, and I wanted to find out what it was.
He says, y'all got any more of that crack?
I meant to touch it, and then I'd know for sure if it was real. When we were within 20 feet of it, I said again, Joe, don't leave me. And then I walked up, till my face...
Joe, don't leave me. I'm so scared of the skinny man. Protect me, Joe. Please, Joe. By the way, I did my Morticia Addams look this morning, in case you didn't notice. Not with my hair. Obviously, my hair is blonde, but my makeup, I did Morticia. I hope it looks cute.
Face was close beside it. I'll never forget that moment as long as I live. It had on black pants, a white shirt with a hard bosom front, and black braces. Its head was bare, and he was of medium size. It looked as though its eyes were deeply sunk in, and they were very bright and penetrating, and the only thing it looked like was a skeleton. I didn't touch it, although I would have...
Generally, skeletons don't have eyes, though, so that's a difference.
Even then. But Joe gave a scream and ran, and I was scared.
Fucking Joe!
I wasn't long overtaking
Get it together, Joe, you...
taking him, and from that time, Joe had a hard time to keep up with me. It followed, and kept 20 feet behind us. There were bars on the home's fence.
And when I say Morticia Addams, I should specify it's the Angelica Houston version of Morticia Addams. Just my face, with my eye makeup and my lipstick and stuff.
We jumped them, and the thing cut across the field to head us off, but we got there first. The two friends reached the safety of the farmhouse and stood panting in the doorway. They watched in
Your mom was filmed in Alberta, Big Zebra.
horror as the apparition, apparently unwilling to violate the sanctity of the home, climbed atop a rotten pole which jutted out from a stone wall nearby and perched itself there, staring intently at the two men without saying a word. In the morning, Thorne said, I went out and felt that pole, and do you know, it was so rotten, it just crumbled up in my hands. Why, that pole was so rotten it couldn't have held a bird. Thorne went on to relate how, 1 year after the strange adventure, Joe fell ill with laryngeal tuberculosis, a condition which left his mind clear and rational, but caused his throat terrible pain.
Oh, so it looks like they don't have eyes, but they really have big black eyes, is what Maya's explaining to us. I get it. That makes sense. By the way, if you can afford to visit Banff, it's an amazing place. I'll take your word for it.
End of his illness, when the pain became almost too much for him to bear, Holmes claimed that he was visited by the same skeletal apparition that he and Thorne had encountered 1 year earlier. The frightening figure massaged the dying man's throat, immediately relieving him of pain. Several days later, Holmes succumbed to his illness. I sat up with him every night, Thorne said. And do you know what he looked like when he died? He looked just like that man. He was pretty well wasted away. As Thorne himself surmised at the end of his narrative, the skeletal figure that he and his friend encountered appeared to be a forerunner, an omen of impending disaster, common in maritime folklore.
I love that one. I love that one. He was seeing himself wasted away from the disease. Full circle. That one I did not see that coming. Thank you.
The forerunner evokes the old German legend of the doppelganger, an apparition of a living person, portending the demise of the unfortunate whom it resembles.
Should we do a whole episode on doppelgangers? I should add that to the poll at some point. Doppelgangers. That's a good topic because there's a lot of folklore about that and a lot of actual sightings and stories and stuff where you see yourself.
Which, in this case, appeared to be a vision of Holmes' future self at the moment of his death.
Why is Bugbot still talking about Saint Germain? Get your shit together, Bugbot. It's
West
not
of the
my
Maritimes,
fault that you were
in the Canadian
behind.
shield of what is now Northern Ontario,
I take no
the Anishinaabe nations.
I take no responsibility for anything. No, it's my fault. What is the timers? So, the cryptic question will be... It's obviously going to be... It's going to be, do spooky, scary skeletons send shivers down your spine? Do they? And then... we'll change that one too. Yeah, there we go. I was just so preoccupied with doing the sound commands this morning that I totally forgot about changing up the timers about the topics today.
Tell campfire stories of an entity called the Pagak, an animated skeleton which in physical appearance, behavior, and symbolic significance strongly resembles the doppelganger described by Helen Creighton. One nation whose traditional stories on the subject have been recorded for posterity.
And this seems to be largely like eastern to central Canada, where these stories are coming from. Just that's the region that the folklore seems to emerge from. Yeah, I love folklore, Victoria.
Is the Algonquin of Lake Temiskaming, the latter being a northerly augmentation of the Ottawa River.
That's what cryptozoology really is. It's the cross section between folklore and zoology. Right? And sometimes, to an extent, mythology, but yeah, it's mostly a cross section between folklore and zoology,
which straddles the border of Ontario and Quebec. In a 1915 anthropological paper for the Canadian Department of Mines, American anthropologist Frank Goldsmith Speck wrote that the Temiskaming Algonquin regarded the Pagak as a creature of bones, a skeleton that clatters through the forest, making a great rattling and squeaking noise. When this is heard, it is
what if you oil him? Could you oil him and stop the squeaking at least?
Understood as an omen that some friend will be lost. Pagak is accounted for by the story of a hunter who got starved out in the bush. Before he died, he wished that his life and the strength of his flesh might be transferred to his bones. He got his wish, and his strength went into his bones when his flesh...
Can I make that wish too? I want to be a vengeful skeleton spirit when I die. If there's an afterlife and I don't just get to not be anymore, which sounds optimal. I mean, other than potentially maybe floating into the dark void, which sounds very soothing to a bitch that gets migraines a couple times a month. But floating into the void with my migraines, into the sweet velvety darkness doesn't sound that bad. But if I have to have a interactive afterlife, why can't I be a freaking spooky, scary skeleton haunting the streets of... I could do El Paso. I'm in El Paso right now. I could haunt the streets of El Paso, wreaking vengeance. Just give me a chance, powers that be.
Fell away. Whenever he wished, he could fly through the air as though on wings.
And if you're a spooky, scary skeleton spirit, you can fly. That's another bonus. Being able to fly is...
Southwest of Lake Temiskaming lies Lake Temagami, the historic homeland of the Temagami Ojibwe, who also believed in the Pagak. Speck recorded these people's interpretation of the entity in his aforementioned treatise, writing, "This is a personification of a human skeleton without the flesh, which wanders about the country. When he travels, he goes as fast as he thinks. When he wishes himself to be in a place, he is there as soon as he thinks of it. When he is heard by the people, it is a sign that someone will die. It is thought that he is heard occasionally 3 times in succession, making his peculiar noise, once at the horizon."
Is it the sound of xylophones? I wish I had a xylophone to play while we watch this. Spooky, scary skeletons and shivers down my spine. Maybe that's the sound that follows him around. Maybe it's that song, Spooky, Scary Skeletons. I've had it stuck in my head the whole time since I've been working on this video and doing research for this video. I cannot drop it. Spooky, Scary Skeletons. It's in my head.
Horizon, once at the zenith, and again at the opposite horizon. Anthropologists Sister Bernard Coleman, Ellen Frogner, and Estelle Ike elaborated on the Ojibwe conception of what they called the Pagak in their 1962 book,
did you say?
Ojibwe Myths and Legends.
Hold on.
The Pagak used in their 19er and Estelle Ike horizon. Anthropologists Sister Bernard Coleman, Ellen Frogner, and Estelle Ike.
So I thought I misheard that because he said Bernard Coleman, which if you're a cryptozoology person like me, a cryptozoologist, then you'd know, like, Bernard Hoovelman is the father of cryptozoology, and then Lauren Coleman is like currently the world's most famous cryptozoologist, probably. He runs the Cryptozoology Museum in Maine. So I thought the person was like combining their names to make somebody named Bernard Coleman, but apparently it's a real person. My bad. Good morning, PC. Good morning, TS. Christine Slays. Good morning, good morning.
Elaborate on the Ojibwe conception of what they called the Pagak in their 1962 book, Ojibwe Myths and Legends, writing, "The Pagak used to wander restlessly in the woods as a skeleton, sometimes a flying skeleton. He was a sign of bad luck to anyone who saw him. One woman spoke of how, with the coming of spring, the Indians kept very quiet and listened for the Pagak in the woods. They would hear him shoot, for he was a hunter, or
he had a gun.
his bones make a noise."
Where'd he get his gun at, yo? They knew about guns before, or the Pagak knew about guns before white people came around. Bro's packing. If I was a spooky, scary skeleton flying around the forest, I think a gun would be the last thing I needed, right? What are they going to do, shoot me? They're going to shoot me? I guess he's a hunter. What's he hunting for, though? Because he got a stomach. Is he going to eat? Maybe he eats the spirit of the animal he shoots. Like when he shoots the deer and then its ghost rises up out of the body. That's when he does his thing. He sucks the soul out of the deer. I don't have any idea.
Noise as he walked. Generally, he was spoken of as a skeleton of a human being, although one person described him as monster-like in appearance. More than 1,000 kilometers.
Being a skeleton of a human being is pretty monster-like too, all things considered.
Northwest of Lake Temagami, in the remote lake-ridden wilds of northwest Ontario, lies Sandy Lake, home to an Ojibwe First Nation, whose flying skeleton stories appear in anthropologist James R. Stevens' 1995 book, Sacred Legends. In one
Fucking flying skeletons! Hell yes! Can we start a band called Bumblebee and the Flying Skeletons? Am I butchering your name? Is it Christine? Christian? I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm trying, babe. T.S. Christian Slays. I don't know. Phonetically spell it out for me, and I'll try to get it right from here on out. But good morning. Good morning, Hive and all my fam. We're doing spooky, scary skeletons.
Tales which Stevens reproduced. A luckless hunter named Tomaton was searching for game in the forest one winter day when he heard a strange whispering on the wind. As it sounded like someone calling his name, Stevens wrote, he went into the forest to investigate. He had not gone far when he saw a human skeleton caught on the branch of a small birch tree.
Aww.
"Free me, Tomaton," the skeleton cried. The Indian wanted to run away because he was very frightened.
Dude, Tomaton, be decent. Be a Christian. Alright, yeah. Tomaton, though. Tomaton, you need to be a decent person and let this flying skeleton go. Because if you do, you might get some wishes or some shit. I don't know.
But he was afraid to run away, so he gathered all his courage and lifted the skeleton off the branch. The skeleton then flew into the air, crying, "I am Pagak, the flying skeleton. You, Tomaton, are a very courageous Indian, and will be blessed with good hunting and a long life."
Hell yeah!
Then Pagak became invisible and flew.
Pagak, come see me. Come see Bree. I'm just checking something. My lips are looking a little weird. There's a spot on it that I don't like. So I fixed it. And we're good now. Yes. Actually, I don't know if I want to be Pagak or I want to be with Pagak. Maybe I will be, what was her name again? The Corvo. No, it's a 2, a 6 one. Le Corvo, yeah. I'll be Le Corvo, and me and Pagak will hook up.
Life. Then Pagak became invisible and flew off into the stormy winter sky.
Bye,
Tomaton
Pagak.
sat down and smoked a tobacco offering to his guarding spirit, Pagak, the flying skeleton. From this day on, the hunter was always successful in his hunting and trapping. The legend of the flying skeleton can be found further to the west, in the boreal forests of northern Saskatchewan, the historic domain of the Woodland Cree. Fur trader George Nelson, who managed the Hudson's Bay Company post at Lac La Ronge,
George Nelson
described the Woodland Cree conception of the entity in a letter to his father, written in April 1823. Nelson's native clients described the figure as the ghost of one who died in a state of emaciation, from either starvation or tuberculosis, which appears in the form of a skeleton with skin. At the time the letter was written,
this does sound like the appearance does sound a lot like the traditional appearance of a Wendigo too, right? Right? I mean,
Nelson was playing host to a sick Indian who claimed to have had several frightening encounters with these entities. The first incident, the native explained, took place on a spring night several years prior, when he took his canoe out into Lac La Ronge to hunt moose. He paddled over to a shallow part of the lake, tied his craft to a clump of rushes so that it would not drift away, and waited quietly, hoping to hear the bellowing of a bull moose.
cough, cough. Yeah.
While he waited, the native discerned a strange sound in the distance, directly ahead of him. The sound resembled a human voice, crying, "Hey, hey, hey," in rapid succession, its tone oddly cold and...
Excuse me. It really sounds like a Wendigo to me. The time to go is now, when someone says Wendigo. I just made like a pun about Wendigo. The time to go is now.
monotonous. The hairs of his neck stood on end as the noise drifted directly towards him, as if it were floating on the air. Terrified, the native laid low in his canoe, too frightened to hazard a glance in the direction of the unearthly voice, which was now fast approaching. Despite this precaution, the aerial vociferant flew straight up to the canoe.
Someone just shut Kip Davis down. What did you say, Kip? Saskatchewan sealskin. Oh. I don't know what that even means, but somebody was offended by it. I think that might have been an accident. Listen, I know everyone hates ChatGPT, but it gives me good details about how to legally go about giving inherited property back to First Nations groups, and it's making me very happy. Yeah. I tried to see if ChatGPT could... ChatGPT, it knows about me. Like, if I ask it about Hive, it knows me. It knows my name's Bree McCune. It knows I go by Bumblebee. It knows all kinds of crazy shit about me that was wild. It knows about the thing that was wild about it that I really was surprised was that it knows about Vandy. It knows about Dr. Tapioca Weasel. It knows that Dr. Tapioca Weasel, the handle on YouTube, is Dr. Michael Vandergraaf, and that he's related to the Vandergraaf generator. It literally knows that. It also knows that he collaborates with Kip Davis. But it did not believe me when I told it the ChatGPT that Kip Davis told me that Dr. Tapioca Weasel eats babies. I said, is it true that Dr. Tapioca Weasel eats babies? It's like, no, Dr. Tapioca Weasel, a.k.a. Dr. Michael Vandergraaf, does not eat babies. Kip Davis would have no way to, like, it got really mad about Kip, the prospect of Kip saying that. And it knows who Kip is, too. It's like, oh, yeah, Kip Davis, the biblical scholar of the Old Testament, who has no expertise in criminal activity or whatever. It was really wild. It was funny. Yeah, the ChatGPT does know who Vandy is. It knows who you are too, Maya. And it knows we collaborate. It does, and it knows that you don't like Bob Price. It really wanted to talk about that too. I kept trying to get it to talk about me, and it kept wanting to go back to talking about that I collaborated with you, and you don't like Bob Price. It was so funny.
And threw the Indian into the lake. Choking and sputtering, the hunter scrambled for the shore, hounded all the while by the mysterious chanter, which hovered directly above his head, crying its metronomic incantation. Then I took some dry grass, the Indian told Nelson, which I rubbed and breathed.
Oh, I want to be clear. This isn't like a chat GPT conversation that I sculpted by describing my friends to it. I ask it to I ask it about you. I don't talk about you to it. It's like I ask it like, does Hive Science collaborate with Maya Atkinson? And it'll go look it up and then talk about it and then put up a paragraph about us. Yeah. Well, I mean, I've never actually heard Vandy come out and say, I don't eat babies. Yeah, it has access to the thing. What the upgrade that gave us this accessibility is that ChatGPT now has access to the YouTube transcripts of our conversations. That's where it's getting that information at. It now can go if you mention a channel name or a person who has a channel or your presence. It can actually go in and find. Yeah, it does agree Bob Price is a bigot, but it could actually go in and find the transcripts of the conversations that we had and use those to answer questions. It's freaking nuts. Like our conversations, like this, you could get pull up a transcript of this show, and it will tell you about us. It's very invasive. Maya is the most high. I've seen Maya pretty high. I've seen Maya tip over the edge on getting high. So we got to regulate our goddess's consumption if she's going to be getting high.
It became soft, and put it under my armpits, and crumpled myself into a small heap, and remained till the sun began to warm. All night long.
Where does this rumor start that Vandy is tall? That Vandy's a giant? I have had Vandy in my bedroom. Okay, I promise you, he's about this big. I could, if he would have let me, he wouldn't even let me pick him up. But I could have put him in my pocket. He's so small. I have a video of it. You can go look at it on my channel. He's only, but I want to say like 9 or 10 inches tall, about this big. He's a little bitty guy. Uh-huh. I did not try to kill you. I may be the most high, but Maya is the goddess, says PC. That's true. Yeah, he's full grown. He's just little. He's like a little pocket-sized guy. Yeah. I had to get I had a chair next to me. I had to get like a stack of books. And he'd sit on it. I don't know where this rumor. Oh, gift membership. You got your own membership. Kristen, welcome to the Hive. You're green now, which means that you can do Bigfoot prints. I lie a lot. I'm a professional liar. Yeah. Well, I'm a shill for covering up NASA and for evolution, for the Smithsonian. The Smithsonian is where I get most of my shill money at, because I spent a lot of time debunking the claims about them having giant skeletons and stuff in their basements. You know. Yeah.
Long, the chanter hovered above the Indian, maintaining its incessant cry, before finally departing at dawn.
Woo! We got Bigfoot.
The native's second encounter with such an entity took place while he was hunting beaver with a friend.
Now I want to clarify with the Vandy thing. I don't know, because there might have been more than one, because they were moving around really fast in my room. So I'd see him up on this shelf, then he'd be over here sitting on the corner of my bed, and then he was just everywhere. So there may have been more than one. I'm not sure, but we did play the Ouija board.
Ventured far from camp, and after killing 6 beavers, built a roaring fire, and decided to sleep under the stars. I awoke in the night.
Are you out there in Chat GPT asking about yourself, Maya? Well, what? Is that a conspiracy thing? Giant skeletons in a basement is one of the Smithsonian in one of the Smithsonian museums. Yes, that's the conspiracy. Like the Lovelock Cave giants, the Ohio Mound giants, all these alleged giants and other things that were found during the late 19th century and reported on these newspapers. They were just like frontier tales. Oh, yeah. It does agree. It does agree that Bob Price is trash. But I digress. I'm getting off track now. But yes, there are allegedly giant skeletons hidden in the Smithsonian. All these archaeological finds. Younger creationists like to cite that a lot. That they find these giants and dinosaur and man things that live together, and then they go and hide them in the basement of the Smithsonian. So the Smithsonian pays me as a shill to come out here and say that's nonsense, and then be like, look, giant skeletons are just mythology, and do a show like this where I like poo-poo it, and I'm like, no, giant skeletons are silly. It's to throw you all off of looking into the Smithsonian and finding the giant skeletons in the basement. You're welcome, Smithsonian.
The Indian told Nelson, and was much astonished to observe a man seated on the opposite side of the fire, resting his head on both hands, with his elbows on his knees.
I think the theory, AR, about Dr. Tapioca Weasel is that there's three. It's three weasels in a trench coat. Yeah.
Apparently in a very pensive, sullen manner. He had but skin and bone, not the least particle of flesh, and this one had hair on his bony head. I gently pushed my friend and told him to look at that stranger. We were both extremely agitated in consequence of our fear, and were at a loss what to do. Having no alternative, I arose. Conceiving that he came to ask for something to eat, I took a beaver, cut it in two, and presented him the half of it. He did not deign to look at it.
Wow, Patty, I never even thought about that. Identified emotionally abusive behavior. I'd like to do that to regulate myself, too. I don't want to be doing stuff that's emotionally abusive. And sometimes, I may, like when I'm having an emotional reaction, I may react in a way that could be abusive if I didn't know the way that it was being perceived and the way that our interaction was going to be that way. I don't want to be abusive and do abusive behavior. So to be able to identify my own behaviors, do better for myself, and then expect better from others is an excellent goal. So I never thought about using it for that. I'm doing a charity stream later this week for the Trans Housing Network. Next weekend on Twitch, if anyone wanna, just saying. So, Kristen, I also, I was supposed to invite Maya last night too. We had kind of a full house, but Patty was there. But Maya, if you want to join us for trivia next Friday night on Dr. Biden's show, if you want to pencil that into your schedule, yeah, we can make that a thing. Ben really wants you to come hang out. So look forward to chatting with you on that. Now, Kristen, yeah, do you know about the transpositions? Because maybe we could help with a charity drive over on the transpositions. You're in the Discord server. Message me and and let me know the details about your charity drive, and I'll see if we can't maybe promote it on the transpositions for you. But that got me thinking about collaborating with Maya, and then which I'm going to be doing tomorrow. I'm going to be on Bad Science Sunday tomorrow with Doc Dino, right? I hope so. That's what I got written down. Oh, it's not like regular trivia. It's like we play beer, bud, or band. It's B, B, or B, where there's a name of something, and you got to decide whether it's the name of a beer, the name of a band, or the name of a bud, like marijuana. And it's harder than it sounds. It is so hard. Patty played last night. It's hard, isn't it? I mean, I kick ass at it, but That's because I've got lots of practice. But and I look at a lot of weed menus. The ones that are hardest for me are the beer, actually.
I was much afraid. I then bethought of cutting it into mouthfuls, which, after presenting him, I threw into the fire. Thus I did with the whole, and when done, he arose and walked off peaceably in the air.
So, if you didn't follow that story, because I kept cutting it off to ramble at the side chat, the guy woke up and there was a skinny dude, like a gaunt, skinny, skeletal dude, sitting by his fire. And he was like, hey, maybe he's hungry. So he got up and gave him half a beaver to eat. And he didn't want it. So he cut it up into little pieces for him to eat. And he didn't want it. So then he threw the little pieces into the fire. So he wasted like a whole half a beaver. And then the dude just got up and walked away. Didn't say anything. Yeah, he was lurking. Yeah, he was lurking. So he's like Kristen. Kristen, are you a spooky, scary skeleton? You can tell us. We won't judge you. The tribe I'm in contact with actually talks about little people. Yeah, like Vandy's people. The little Vandy guys. The little Vandergraafs. Mm-hmm. They're actually, the little ones are called micrographs. They're not Vandygraphs. When they combine together, they're Vandygraphs.
The natives' third encounter took place on the night of March 31st, 1823, several days before Nelson wrote his letter. At a late hour in the night, Nelson wrote, he was pulled most violently out of his bed, so that his wife that was lying beside him awoke, and with difficulty kept him down. Shortly thereafter, the cabin in which a couple were sleeping shook violently.
I saw the moon and I couldn't control myself. Werewolf. Whew. Vandy's the troll. I think she's talking about actual people. Vandy's a troll. Okay. Little people today. Yeah, we have the Nimmergen are the Native American little people of the Rockies. But you're east of the Appalachians, aren't you, Native atheists? You don't have to tell us where you are, but are you east of the Appalachians? Because I'm trying to figure out would it be like a Pukwudgie kind of deal? Let me know.
Later on in his letter, Nelson described an elaborate ritual by which the Cree attempted to protect themselves from the vexations of these skeletal ghosts, which involved tobacco smoking, speech-making, dancing, incantations, and offering bowls of grease to a wooden figure intended to represent the spirit in question. Further to the south, the Woodland Cree's prairie-dwelling cousins, the Plains Cree, have their own stories involving skeletal apparitions, some of which appear in American linguist Leonard Bloomfield's 1934 book, Plains Cree Texts. In one of Bloomfield's stories, told to him by a Plains Cree elder named Adam Sakawoo at Battleford, Saskatchewan, a bony specter, as the storyteller called it, kidnapped a Cree woman and flew her to his aerial lodge, where he kept her as his wife.
I like how skeletons can just fly. It's like default that they can fly. It's kind of interesting, though, because one of the things about the Cree, I believe it's the Cree, correct me if I'm wrong, but the Cree, their method of entering the dead was not burial or burning. They would put them up on like a scaffolding up in the sky, like up high, and just leave them there to be exposed to the elements and wildlife and birds and stuff would pick at them, and that's how they would be disposed of. So it's not that surprising that skeletons became associated with flying for these people groups. You know, if you think about the correlation between them putting the dead up high and then the skeletons being up in the air. The
woman's human husband, who was gifted with powerful medicine, performed a ritual which allowed him to
Are you talking about Homo naledi, or are you talking about Homo florensis? Florensis was from the Isle of Flores. They're the ones they call the hobbits. And then naledi is Africa, got like a loose hair bugging me. And then Naledi is Africa, and they were smaller too. I think they were bigger. They were bigger than Australopithecines, though. I'm not sure.
Back his wife to the Specters' teepee. As redress for his offense, which he had committed contrary to the advice of his skeletal father, the bony kidnapper taught the husband magic songs, which would assist him in hunting and grant him the ability to heal the sick. As payment for these gifts, the husband agreed to offer the bony specter all of the marrow fat from the first 2 moose that he killed. In another story told by Elder Cummingday, a Plains Cree hunter married
I want to learn some magic Cree songs. That sounds lit.
a woodland Cree girl whose father was reputed to be an evil medicine man. Before allowing his daughter to join her husband's horse-riding people on the plains, the boreal sorcerer convinced his son-in-law to spend a season hunting and trapping with him in the northern bush. While living among his wife's people, the Plains Cree husband incurred the ire of his
I
father-in-law.
like how foggy it is up there. It looks very eerie, very Sleepy Hollow-esque. This is in Saskatchewan, the boreal forest. I think one of the biggest boreal forests in the world is in Saskatchewan. I know the biggest one in the world is in Siberia, but I think that the Canadian one, which is like maybe second biggest, I'm not sure. There might be a Chinese one that's bigger and a higher elevation. But anyway, I digress.
By spending too much time playing a certain childhood game of which he was inordinately fond, thereby neglecting his hunting duties. As punishment for his indolence, the Woodland Cree Manitou Man, as the storyteller called him, cursed the young man so that he could not kill any game, and forbade his people from feeding him. Heedless of the lamentations of his daughter, who had grown to love her husband, the medicine man gradually starved his son-in-law until he was too weak to move.
We're way over on time. I'm really chatty this morning, though. I've been stopping a lot to chat with you all. I'm going to speed him up, though.
Whereupon he abandoned him in the bush to die alone. When he was on the brink of death, the Plains Cree husband was approached by a bony specter, whose arrival was accompanied by a gust of wind, a sound like a gunshot, a whoop, and the words "Hey, hey, hi, hi," whispered on the wind. The skeletal figure, clad
all
in
at the same time?
leather, took pity on the young man, and transformed him.
Hey, hey, hi, hi!
He taught the husband how to fly through the air, and how to feed himself on melted fat that was offered to him by Cree hunters. The husband was eventually captured by his own relations, and nourished back into human form. Armed with powerful medicine he had obtained from his skeletal mentor, the young man tracked down his evil father-in-law and paralyzed him, initiating his slow and painful death by starvation. In a final story told by Adam Sakawu, which has elements in common with the dwarf story told by Cummingday that appears in David Mandelbaum's 1979 treatise on the Plains Cree, a hunter named Crooked Moccasin encountered a bony specter in a forest meadow. The figure proposed a wrestling match, waging their guns as the prize. He boasted that his own firearm never missed, but said that he wished to obtain a human musket as a gift for his father. After some hesitation, Crooked Moccasin agreed, and the two began to grapple. When he grew tired, Crooked Moccasin tripped
I like how they just like integrate firearms into their folklore, like without even considering that firearms were brought over post-Columbian, right? So just an observation, a lot of this folklore.
Spectre and threw him to the ground. Pleading that the move was unfair, the Spectre demanded a rematch, to which the hunter agreed. The wrestlers fought 2 more bouts, each of which ended the same way. Finally, the bony Spectre conceded defeat and granted Crooked Moccasin his gun, which looked like a piece of driftwood or a sun-bleached stick. With this new weapon, the hunter killed 2 moose, had his wife extract the marrow from their bones, and invited his skeletal rival to feast with him in his teepee. Another Plains Cree.
That's kind of cool having a gun that looks like a stick, though, because you could be carrying that and be safe and have the security of having a gun on you without having to worry about getting shot by a cop, right? Like if you're a minority, you can't just carry a gun. Even if you can carry a gun, you can't just carry a gun. You're going to get shot. So, obviously, that people of color suffer from that worse than anything. But here in the last couple of years, trans women too have, trans women and trans men for that matter, would be shot for carrying a gun because obviously we're terrorists.
The Flying Skeleton story appears in Reverend Edward Hennecu's posthumous 1973 book, Voices of the Plains Cree, told to him by Chief Thunderchild of the Thunderchild Reserve near Turtleford, Saskatchewan. We have all heard of another small creature, Thunderchild said, and he is not harmless, for he is a Pakakos, the hard luck spirit. The chief proceeded to relate a story, told to him by an Onion Lake Cree named Sam Cook, while the two of them were encamped on a creek near Island Lake, at the edge of the boreal forest. I am used to the open country, Thunderchild said, recalling the evening on which he heard the tale. And at night, that forest seemed to close in
Have a good one, Zebra.
upon us, primeval, almost unearthly. Then Sam told me his experience with Pakakos, and in that setting, it was impossible for me to doubt them. Many years earlier, at that very same creek, Sam and a Métis hunter named Francois Ladouceur were making camp when they heard someone cackling in the trees. Looking up, the two men saw a Pakakos watching them from a tree branch. It was a small creature, Sam told Thunderchild, like a man in build, but so thin that he seemed all skin and bone. He had a dry stick in his hand, birch, almost 3 feet long, and his queer little face was so full of malice that it angered me, although I felt fear too, and a kind of foreboding. I ran to the wagon for my rifle, but before I could reach it, that shrill, cackling laugh came again, and when I looked, I saw a Pakakos flying away without wings. But first he had hurled that stick of birch, and it exploded, with a sound like the report of a gun. And then Pakakos was gone.
So he had he has exploding branches. The other guy had gun branches. So all their weapons and stuff are disguised as just sticks. Love it. I'm a skeleton with a deadly stick.
Thunderchild then repeated another story, told to him by his father's cousin, Masuskapu. While sleeping under a large spruce tree during a hunting trip in the northern bush, Masuskapu was awakened by the sensation of a weight on his chest. Something that moved, he said, was alive.
I'm assuming that Kristen means the Transpositions Discord server there for you, Maya.
Without betraying any awareness of this alarming development, the hunter opened his eyes a crack and saw a small creature perched on his breast. I knew it was a Pakakos, he told Thunderchild, by that crafty smile on his bony little face. Mustering his courage, he seized one of the creature's legs and held it firmly, intending to bring it back to his main camp. Recognizing that it would not escape on his own, the creature pleaded with Masuskapu, promising to send him 2 moose if he let him go. The hunter accepted the offer and released the creature, which shot up into the air and out of sight. In the morning, the hunter said, I started back to camp, and as I went, I came upon 3 moose. I killed 2 easily, but I did not shoot at the third. Pakakos had said 2. According to the late Albertan historian Hugh Depp.
So the waking up with the creature on your chest is very reminiscent of sleep paralysis and what they call hagging or being hag-ridden. Just to me, that's what it reminds me of. That maybe this person had a hypnopompic state where they interacted with Pakakos, and when they woke up, then they went moose hunting and had a successful hunt. So like, heck yeah, Pakakos. Thank you, dude.
Dempsey, in his 2010 book, Maskabatoon, the bygone Rocky Mountain Cree believed that the Pakakos haunted the Canadian Rockies, describing it as a skeleton figure that punished careless hunters. Another of Dempsey's books, entitled The Vengeful Wife and Other Blackfoot Stories, includes an old Blackfoot tale in which the skeletal ghost of a murdered woman haunted a blood Blackfoot named Heavy Collar. One dark night, while returning home from an unsuccessful horse raid, Heavy Collar had the misfortune to sleep beside the woman's skeleton, which lay in the grass near present-day Lethbridge, Alberta. The following day, the ghost woman, in skeletal form, sat herself beside his campfire and stretched out her bony legs towards him, prompting him to shoot her with his musket. In consequence, the spirit forbade Heavy Collar from returning to the place on pain of death. Many years later, when American whiskey traders established the notorious Fort Whoop-Up nearby, Heavy Collar returned to the forbidden location, where he was killed by an errant bullet fired by a drunken reveler.
She warned you, bro. People don't be listening to prophetic skeletons that come to their campfires, and it shows.
Further to the west, in British Columbia's interior plateau, the Thompson Indians have traditional stories about gaunt human-like creatures said to haunt the North Cascade and Lillooet Mountains. As anthropologist James Tate put it in his 1900 ethnological treatise on the Thompson,
Bye, Patty.
These creatures are said to be of the same size and height as ordinary people, but naked, and of a ghost color. They are very gaunt, the shape of all their bones and joints being visible. Their eyes are very large and round, and protrude from their heads. Like ghosts, they chase people, but are more persistent.
Ooh.
Other native tribes across the country have old tales about skeletal man-eating entities, which were more numerous in the ancient past, which are typically given the name of cannibals by anthropologists. One complex iteration of this motif is the Cree and Anishinaabe legend of the Wendigo,
The
a subject which this
Wendigo.
author has explored in the past, and hopes to cover more thoroughly in the future. Finally, on the west coast of Vancouver Island, British Columbia, at Canada's westernmost end, there is an eerie ghost story associated with the wreck of the SS Valencia, a passenger steamer which sank in January 1922 near cliffs known today as the Valencia Bluffs, resulting in the deaths of 136 passengers and crew members. According to T.W. Patterson, in his 1983 book, British Columbia Shipwrecks, in the years succeeding the disaster, native fishermen in Barkley Sound sometimes encountered a lifeboat crewed by skeletons, rowing silently through the fog. Whether regarded as omens of impending disaster, preternatural denizens of the North Woods, or apparitions of the restless dead, animated skeletons are little known, yet curiously universal staples of Canadian folklore, the stories of which deserve retelling.
All right. So that was our spooky, scary skeletons. That ran way over from what I usually do for Cryptic Corner. About a half an hour over, surprisingly, which is rare. So this is going to be a long one. And I might have to trim it out, a lot of the banter and stuff, because it's not going to be relevant when I publish this. So that's all right, though. I love it. There is Little People video on here, on Little People in Ontario. I also have a Black Panthers in Ontario. So Ontario's run amok with creatures and supernatural monsters and stuff, apparently. But this was Hammerson Peters covering the Skeleton Spirits of the North, Canada's creepiest legends. I hope you guys had fun with that one. But that's going to wrap up Cryptic Corner for today. And please remember to be kind, take care, and we will see you next time. All right. You know where we are in the show right now. This is where I say, don't go. There's more show. And it's the true crime section coming up next. So you don't want to miss that. It's going to be a week in weird. I say true crime section like true crime is something I actually cover on this channel. I am not a true crime channel at all in any way, shape, or form. But I do enjoy true crime, right? I do participate in listening to true crime stuff, but I am not a true crime channel. But you'll find out more about that, what I mean by that, in just a moment, because I'm going to take my intermission now, right? This is like a 4-minute intermission generally. There will be a koala countdown, which I enjoy very much. And I will be back with you momentarily. When I come back, we will be in a segment called Weekend Weird, where I pick a weird topic to discuss for the week. Usually like a conspiracy theory or folklore that people still believe today, or anything like that. People are promoting oddball or anti-scientific ideas. Today we're talking about serial killers and the supernatural. But I will be back with you in a few minutes. I'm going to go potty.
Koalas in the rain, koalas in the rain, no fucks given. Koala, koalas in the rain, koalas in the rain, no fucks given. Koala, koalas in the rain, koalas in the rain, no fucks given.
Poor little thing's kicked out of the tree. You can come to our tree. Yeah, come to our tree. Poor little thing. There's plenty of trees. Come on. You're a meanie.
All right, hello, hello, my beauties and bees. Oops, I mean to still have the Knight of Tartaria up there. Hello, hello. Welcome to our week in weirdness. There's a lot of topics that we'll cover on this section of the show. I like to talk about psychic powers. I like to talk about alternative history here, conspiracy theories, extra-dimensional travel, time travel, occult powers, occult groups, anything that pertains to the supernatural and paranormal or tries to link things with something unnatural, paranormal, is what we want to break down here. And one thing that often overlaps with a lot of these paranormal and supernatural claims is crime. Perhaps the most infamous type of criminal associated with the supernatural are murderers, specifically serial killers who participate in occult or ritual killings, things like that. And on the other end of the spectrum, overlapping with the serial killer phenomenon, are psychic mediums who use their gifts to help law enforcement track down and catch serial killers with their psychic brain powers. Yeah. So, without further ado on that, I threw together a playlist of just some random stuff about psychic detectives and supernatural serial killers and their battle royale on the supernatural plane. And we're going to crack that open here in... Where'd it go? There it is. We're going to crack that open here in our weekly weird subject matter. So I really do. I hope you enjoy this little segment. If I can find it. There we go. All right. So, actually, I don't want to start with that one. I'm going to start with this one.
Well, we're sticking with that spooky theme this month for Positively Upstate. Do you believe that some people can, say, communicate with the dead or predict the future?
No, I don't believe either of those things.
Tonight, CBS 6's Julia Dunn introduces us to a well-known psychic medium here in the capital region. She says she helped solve some very well-known police cases.
Ever since she was a young girl, Ann Fisher says she could communicate with the dead.
I was 9 years old. My grandmother had died. I used to walk up to the cemetery. I lived in a small town, and I'd go there and talk to her, not realizing I was communicating with her.
Fast forward, the now professional psychic medium is known.
Honey, I go to the... Well, I didn't this year because I'm thousands of miles away, but I go to talk to my dad, too, at the cemetery. I talk to him. I stay there and say things to him and tell him about my life and some of the things that have developed since his passing in 2011. I don't pretend that he can hear me and stuff. It's cathartic for me to be able to go and say, hey, Dad, I miss you. This happened. I'm stressed out right now about this. I'm so happy about that. Yeah, just it's a venting opportunity, but I don't pretend I'm like talking to his spirit. I don't think that my dad would be thrilled with my transition or anything like that. With the current state of my life, I think my dad would be disappointed and upset. So I hope he's not listening.
Known throughout the world. She's published a book, been on radio, TV, doing readings, seances, and at times helping police with detective work. Her biggest case, finding Capital Region serial killer Lemuel Smith.
When I want to find people, I use a map and a pendulum and a photograph and then try to see what comes to me. And sometimes I can get dates and times.
Not only did Fisher give an accurate description of Smith and where he was living, she also led the police to a trash can containing DNA evidence. Smith later got 2 life sentences. Years later, she helped find a missing man in Waterford, directing police to where his car went into the Mohawk River. For the skeptic, Fisher says the results speak for themselves.
Oh, I've done it so much, and I've had people say it's right. You know, if they said, oh, you know, Ann, you're not right, it probably would deter him.
Fisher says by using a photo, she can channel spirits, helping people connect with loved ones who have passed on, or spirits or ghosts that for some reason haven't.
Some people die and they don't realize they're dead, and they're caught in that in-between zone. They're trapped.
There's like all the results that come up for like empirical data. Like here, okay, so I guess this is going to matter and come into play, so I'll bring this up. This is from the OJP. It's about psychics and police work. Let me drop this in the side chat. Because they want to pretend their results are a lot better than they are. Yeah, it's got Dorothy Allison Nutley. Psychics, including clairvoyants, prophesizers, telepaths, palmists, numerologists, graphologists, and metaphysicians. Both psychics and detectives base their work on intuition to some extent. Dorothy Allison of Nutley, New Jersey, has assisted police with more than 4,000 investigations and has received many letters from law enforcement agencies describing how she helped them. To produce information in a criminal investigation, most psychics like to have an article or photograph of the victim or visit the victim's home or the crime scene. Allison asks only for the person's date and place of birth and the date and location last seen. Professional Psychics United, the PPU, a network of more than 380 psychics, has volunteer psychic rescue teams. The PPU psychics usually become involved only after the police contact them. Paul Kurtz, head of the Committee for the Scientific Investigation of Claims of the Paranormal, dismisses psychics outright, saying that much of their detection is actually wild guessing, cold reading, and stuff like that. So they may be very good detectives. The psychic investigators, they made there's a certain set of personality characteristics that you. Are you going to bring up Sylvia Brown? Yeah. Oh, Sylvia. Yeah, they're all talking about Sylvia Brown out in the side chat. Yeah, she did this too. In 1993, article in the organization's journal revealed that 31 of 50 large police agencies surveyed have never used psychics. The FBI also does not hire psychics and does not plan to use them, although it notes that they, like other citizens, can offer information for assessment by law enforcement officials. Psychics and their critics differ sharply in their views about their usefulness, but they will probably continue to be involved in criminal investigations, photographs, and illustrations. Yeah, so... no, they like to claim that they're participating in the stuff. A lot of these people are just what they're actually their part that they play is like calling the police station or making a police report saying, "Hey, I think that there's a body here" or something like that. I think that I have reason to believe that there's a killer living here. Things like that.
If you try to get rid of one of those and have them go on, they're easy. But when you get one that doesn't want to leave, that's when it's bad.
Past life regression is another type of hypnotherapy Fisher offers to clients. When I asked her,
Past life regression is almost solely responsible for the satanic panic, right? Wait a second. Dr. Phil plus ice plus a racist psychic sounds like a dangerous mix. What the hell are we talking about? No, that sounds terrible. Is that a show? Are they using psychics to find illegal immigrants? That sounds horrifying. There's a demographic of Americans who love that, though, who would love to just watch immigrants be rounded up like freaking inhuman creatures. They're migrant workers and undocumented immigrants. They just think of them like people rounding up criminal aliens. It's disgusting.
about her past lives, she showed me this picture of socialite Louise Vanderbilt. Fisher admits the whole psychic medium thing may seem spooky to some.
I'm not scary. I mean, I'm a normal girl. I should have been a psychologist, and maybe I wouldn't have had, but I wouldn't have had all the fun that I have as a psychic. I love it.
In Albany, Julia Dunn, CBS 6 News.
Many claim that psychics can help.
So, like, I think that I could pull off a psychic grift. I think that I have the understanding of how it works good enough to do that. I've worked with enough psychics doing my paranormal investigation. It's all about vibes, but I like my vibes as a cryptozoologist better than a psychic. I don't know if I'm gonna wear this actually. I'm thinking about switching my shirt up to something that matches the gothic cowgirl vibe better than this, but it is Pride though. I don't know. Maybe I'll keep it. Maybe I'll have you all help me pick an outfit. I don't know.
Help police find serial killers. But is it true? The intersection between the esoteric world of psychics and the pragmatic realm of law enforcement might seem unlikely. Yet, there have been numerous instances where purported psychics have claimed to assist in the investigation of serious crimes, including the hunting of serial killers. The use of psychics in law enforcement investigations remains a controversial topic, with some attributing significant breakthroughs to their insights, while others dismiss it as mere coincidences or clever trickery. This video...
Intuition, yeah. Well, I mean, the psychics that I knew and interacted with were really theatrical. So it was really convincing people that they weren't quite the same as everybody else, that they didn't move through the world the same. So you got to get off this vibe that you're kind of, that you're there but you're not there, like, or that you're there but you're also someplace else, right? That you're also interacting with a world that they can't see, like touching things that aren't there. People like that. Like there's like if you're touching a person, right? It gives off those weird, spooky vibes. And then while you're doing that, then you can be asking cold reading questions. It's all part of the show.
We'll explore the role of psychics in helping law enforcement investigate serial killers, the evidence of their effectiveness, skepticism towards these practices, and the alternative approach of psychological profiling. Since the late 20th century, there have been reports of psychics offering their services to law enforcement agencies. Psychics are individuals who profess to have extrasensory perception, ESP, allowing them to access information
But do they, though?
beyond the reach of the conventional senses. Methods used by psychics can vary greatly, including clairvoyance, seeing visions, clairaudience, hearing voices or sounds, precognition, foreseeing events, and psychometry, gaining insights from objects. Police have been known to utilize psychic...
Yeah, psychometry is like when you hold someone's t-shirt or whatever, and you can see what happened to them, like if someone murdered them or if they were still alive in a holding container in Japan or something like that. It's one of the many claimed psychic powers that these people will have. They'll also, like she said, they'll do a pendulum over a map. They'll do Google Earth now. We're actually going to watch one that does that here in a minute.
In hopes they can provide clues or details about crimes that may otherwise remain mysteries. Serial killers pose a unique challenge to law enforcement agencies. They are individuals who commit a series of murders over a period of time, often with no apparent motive and a random selection of victims. The unpredictable and clandestine...
That is not what the definition of a serial killer is. There's usually a lot of predictability to who the next victim will be for a serial killer. They usually have a profile of who this person is attacking and what maybe motivates them, what type of psychology they have. There's actually, there's a whole career field of profiling serial killers.
The nature of their crimes can make them incredibly difficult to apprehend. It is in these challenging cases that some detectives have turned to psychics for assistance, hoping that their purported psychic abilities can provide the breakthrough needed to solve the case. Serial killers are murderers who kill 3 or more people in a series of separate events over a period of time. Serial killers often have signature ways of operating that are repeated across their crimes.
He
Some
just
of the
said
traits
they
that
were
define
unpredictable,
serial
and now
killers
he's
include
like...
psychopathy, sadism...
He just said they were unpredictable, and now he's like, but they have these defining traits. What? Make up your mind, pal.
And antisocial tendencies. Notorious serial killers like Ted Bundy, John Wayne Gacy, and Jeffrey Dahmer murdered multiple victims in heinous ways. The complex psychological profiles of serial killers make them difficult to apprehend. As a result, law enforcement agencies are sometimes open to unconventional investigation techniques. Some of the most high...
But should they be, is the question. And the answer is no, because the success rate of psychics is abysmal.
Profile serial killer cases where psychics have been consulted include the Green River Killer, BTK Killer, Trailside Killer, and Zodiac Killer. In these...
How can you say they were successful with the Zodiac Killer when the Zodiac Killer is never discovered or never found? What are you talking about? Holy... But those rest of those were found by conventional police work. The BTK Killer, specifically, bro went out of work for a long time, retired from being a serial killer, and then he asked a cop if they could trace something if it was sent from a specific computer, because I guess he was getting bored in his older age. If they could trace something back to the source, and the cops told him no, they tricked him, and he sent it, and they tracked him down and found out who he was. That's what happened to BTK. So it wasn't a psychic detective. It was a boomer not knowing how technology worked. So the irony there. So then that's how he was caught. There was no... I mean, maybe there was a psychic that said... What's his name? Rick... let me see. BTK. In the spine torture kill. Dennis Rader, yeah. Because Dennis Rader being boomer brained was the reason that they caught him. So he didn't realize how good technology was. Not a psychic.
These cases, psychics claim to have visions about the killer's identities, locations, motives, and the whereabouts of victims' bodies. While most law enforcement agencies have...
What about the Green River Killer? How was the Green River Killer brought in? I can't... Did they ever... Alright, Scary Ridgeway. Let me see if the psychic claim pans out. Capture. Arrest for mortar. On November 30th, 2001, he was at a Kenworth truck factory where he worked as a spray painter when police arrived to arrest him. Yeah, because he left, it was hair and saliva samples at the scene. That's not psychics busting that case.
Officially deny relying on psychics. Some detectives believe psychics have contributed useful information not available through traditional police work. However, the extent
saliva in hair, a digital footprint, or what Tsunami said about the Zodiac Killer, decades of decoding his messages.
to which their tips are acted upon varies greatly between departments and individual investigators. There are several high-profile cases where psychic visions supposedly helped crack the cases, such as psychic Annette Martin, purportedly intuiting the location of the body of one of the victims of the Trailside Killer in California in 1979. Police corroborated the details Martin provided with facts about the case. However, the accuracy of her prediction was questioned by skeptics who claimed the information provided was too vague. The infamous Green River Killer case in the United States saw the involvement of psychic detective Noreen Renier.
All right, here we go. He's going to break it down.
Provided accurate descriptions of the killer and his victims. However, it's important to note that such instances, while fascinating, do not conclusively prove the effectiveness of psychic abilities. The lack of rigorous scientific testing and the inability to reproduce psychic phenomena under controlled conditions make it difficult to ascertain the validity of these claims. There are few scientific studies examining the success rate of psychic
As we listen to this, please remember that the type of the caliber of detectives they're talking about here are people like David Paulides, you know, the missing 411 guy. They're basically grifters trying to profit off of the misery of lost family members by incorporating woo-woo into their investigation so they can write books about it after they retire from detective work.
Detectives, making their purported assistance difficult to evaluate objectively. Much of the evidence in favor of psychic sleuthing remains anecdotal. Skepticism towards the use of psychics in criminal investigations is rife, and not without reason. Critics argue that
It's not necessarily anecdotal. Most of it is downright fraudulent. Some of it can be anecdotal. Some of it can be circumstantial. Do I believe that there are folks out there who actually truly and deep in their soul of souls or whatever believe that they have psychic powers? Yes, I believe that those people exist. Oh, thank you, Wild World. Thank you, Thomas. Thomas dropped a slew of videos a couple months back, and it's been kind of quiet lately. I hope you're working on something fun. And I look forward to seeing what you come up with. Hopefully some cryptozoological stuff, because I missed that. Who got a membership? So we got Karen Butcher, we got Jake, insert clever dapper inside joke here, Nelson. We got Yahooligan, we got Da Freak, unapologetically Chrissy, and Native Atheist. Welcome to the Hive, peoples. It's good to see you. Yeah, those people do exist. Absolutely. The psychics who believe their own own grift or whatever. And I don't know, whether there's some psychological stuff going on there or not. There may or may not be, but I'm not here to accuse anybody of grifting necessarily without evidence, but a majority of the psychic community, of the telepathic community, of the cold readers and the mediums, especially the mediums, are grifters. They do a very specific practice called cold reading, where they ask a certain specific questions. Sometimes they'll do stuff as silly as like, I'm getting initials, TB. Does TB sound, it looks like a man in his maybe past in his late 60s. Initials are TB. It's TB, it may be P. And does that sound familiar to anybody? Anybody out there? TB. It might be Thomas. But it could be Timothy too. But the last name definitely starts with a B. Yeah, it's not a P, it's a B. TB. Thomas B. Timothy B. Anybody out there that sound familiar too? Which is silly on its face when you watch somebody do it live, because people will interact with it. People will engage it, and they will be and they'll be like, oh my gosh, my dad's name was Thomas Branson. How did you know? and they'll continue on and kind of like pick it apart. Oh yeah, was there some unresolved issue with you and your dad before he passed away? You know, something like that. They'll start picking at it like that, not understanding that no person in their right mind is going to, oh, this person is, my nurse gave 5 TB tests Wednesday. Does that count, Maya? But they will not think of, I don't know if there's just no critical thinking there. If I died and came back as a ghost, I'm not going to go up to a medium when my family's sitting there in the audience and be like, my name starts with a B and my last name starts with an M. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be like, my name's Bree McCune. The money is in a Ziploc bag in the back of the toilet on the fourth floor of this building or whatever. Something like that. You know, I'm not going to give like vagaries. I'm not going to be like, my initials are BM. That's just silly. We appreciate the work you do too, Thomas. Thank you. Or someone will say, my grandma had tuberculosis. Oh, she's psychic. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. That's how this thing works.
That the testimonials of psychic success often involve confirmation bias, where investigators give more weight to the hits and ignore the misses. Additionally, the practice of cold reading, where individuals use high probability guesses and pick up on cues from their subjects.
I'm not one to shame because I'm all about feeding the bees, but I bet most normies would be like, hey, why doesn't this psychic cut her grass? I'm all about feeding the bees. I hate lawns. I think everybody should replace their lawns with wild flora. Only places where grass is the norm should be grass, right? Like if you live in the Great Plains, sure, have a lawn. Have a goat eat your lawn, or get a bison, get a pet bison. Everybody who has a yard in the Great Plains should get a bison and have it graze their grass instead of mowing.
Who appear psychic is often cited as an explanation for some psychics' seeming accuracy. Skeptics argue that any accurate information provided by psychics about serial killer investigations is a result of broad guesses, intentional deception, or coincidence. Controlled scientific tests designed to evaluate psychics' ability.
No, they can be a better detective than you. I mean, I'm not gonna stand for the cops here. Yes, private citizens can be better. I think I'm tooting my own horn. I'm a cryptozoologist, but I am a better detective than any freaking cop I've ever met, right? I'm better at tracking things down and finding things. Just because cops are not really, I don't want to say they're not invested. I don't know. Every cop has their own thing, but like finding locations and things like that on videos, they cannot say for sure. I will say for sure, like if I like when I did my video where I found where that Bigfoot sighting was, or Bigfoot, hairy hominid, whatever, in Brazil, you know, I was able to track that down, but a cop would not have been able to say affirmative, this is the location. They'd be able, this seems to be the location or whatever. So there's also the limit of making affirmative claims that someone working in law enforcement has. Like they can't, until someone's been convicted, they can't say, yes, this is the person or whatever. Whereas a psychic or a private detective who's pretending to be a psychic, a private citizen who's doing their own detective work, can say, yes, this is the person. I know this is the person, right? I know this is the location. They can say that. So there's a little, that's why they can take credit for it, where the cops got to wait for. And again, I don't want to stand the cops because, again, these private citizens could be far superior detectives. And yes, this is AI video.
Such as randomized
AI's videos make the worst. Detectives are slightly more competent, but not by much. Well, I mean, they've been through some training and stuff, but I don't know. I've often thought about going to school to be a private investigator. I think I'd be good at it.
Guessing tasks have failed to show psychic powers exist. Cognitive biases and improper police procedures may also lead to an overestimation of...
I think my grab bag of skills and knowledge would be complementary to doing PI work.
Psychics' accuracy. Critics claim psychics exploit high-profile cases for publicity, rather than a genuine desire to contribute valid information. The lack of proven psychic abilities causes many in law enforcement to dismiss psychic...
Tell me how you would feel about this. Your child was murdered. Your partner was murdered, right? And the police investigating that murder were like, this psychic investigator saw the person's face in their tea leaves, so we're putting out a sketch as we speak. How would you feel about that? That the killer of your family member, of your loved one, is being tracked down by what somebody saw on the bottom of a teacup.
Psychic consultations as pseudoscience. One potential explanation for the apparent success of some psychic predictions is that they may be effectively employing a form of psychological profiling, albeit unconsciously. Criminal profiling involves analyzing crime scene evidence, victimology, and other relevant details to construct a probable description of the offender. Skilled profilers can make startlingly accurate predictions about criminals, and it's conceivable that some psychics may be intuitively doing the same, interpreting the information they are given and making educated guesses based on their understanding of human behavior. Coincidental similarities between these criminal profiles and psychic visions may explain purported psychic successes. The profiling process...
They're profiling. They're profiling, they're private citizens doing profiling. Exactly.
This involves logic, deductive reasoning, and psychological theories. Methods arguably more credible than clairvoyance. While some psychics maintain they have assisted law enforcement with serial killer cases, conclusive evidence supporting these claims remains elusive. Skepticism persists because controlled tests of psychic abilities have not yielded definitive proof.
Oh, check this out. So I have this cup that I got at Specs, I think, that is, it glows in the dark, but the black light over here, if I sit it right in front of it, this thing glows so violently. Look at that. Like, you could light up the room with this at this point.
As long as serial killer cases go unsolved, psychics will likely continue offering their assistance to desperate police departments hoping for a break in the case. Whether psychic detections ultimately do more harm than good remains an open question. The controversial nature of psychic sleuthing will ensure continued debate regarding their legitimacy and value. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and subscribe to Connect Paranormal. This will allow us to make more videos.
I'm native atheist. I'm very much a creature of the night. Psychic Crystalline.
Hey everybody, it's Psychic Crystalline. I'm here with a video on a big serial killing case that's kind of taken over my life the last 12 years on my volunteer work with Find Me group. And I'll get into the details of how a local case, Dwight Clark was a young college-age student who went missing from Bellingham, and I'll get into that in a few minutes. But the first thing I want to talk about is that I obsessively worked on this case for 2 years straight. Psychic insights that I got, I backed up with 2 years of research of circumstantial evidence. And so I compiled all of this with the help of Find Me Group, and Kelly Snyder, who's the director of Find Me Group, presented this.
Okay, so I guess before we get too far into this, we should look at Find Me Group. Find Me Group is a nonprofit organization dedicated to assisting law enforcement and families in locating missing loved ones, assisting in solving homicides, and identifying victims of human trafficking, which sounds decent, like a decent mission statement. We offer a comprehensive program that utilizes both traditional and non-traditional methods to locate missing loved ones, human trafficking, and resolve homicides. Our team comprises of retired and active law enforcement experts, individuals gifted with intuitive abilities, and skilled search, track, rescue, and recovery specialists. Find Me also provides experts in other disciplines such as handwriting analysis, body language experts, linguists, and forensic psychology. So I believe that this section right here is the psychics is the person we're looking at right now. intuitive investigators, remote viewing, mediumship, forensic astrology, clairvoyance, clairsentience. I think that's how you say that, clairsentience, and clairaudience. So, yeah. And then the rest of the stuff is like real, but yeah. Wild that that they're actually putting people who's have missing loved ones, unsolved homicides, and victims of human trafficking, and they're putting it in the hands of remote viewers and mediums doing astrology. It's kind of sad, actually. Like, if you're doing this as a grift, how do you sleep at night? Anyway, back to the video.
For me, all of my work was presented to the FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York about 10 years ago. And so this was 10 years ago, and I basically did all the work, handed it to the authorities on a silver platter. 12 years later, I opened my news app. I just saw there's 10 college-age young men in just the Chicago area in the last year that have shown up dead, no signs of foul play. It looks like a natural drowning, the same MO, which I'll get into. And so these murders have been coined the smiley face murders or the college drowning deaths, because a lot of times the last place where they went into the water, there's a smiley face painted in the area of where they entered the water. And so what I'm going to do is get into the
Yeah, I'm not sure how I feel if I'm really thinking the smiley face killer is a serial killer. But there's a pattern of deaths that they're linking together on here, which is largely also associated back to David Paulides of the missing 411.
Details of how I got involved in this case, but I'm just so frustrated that these murders are still happening. So many families are being affected. These murders have been happening since the late 90s. There's hundreds of victims, and they started in the Midwest, Minnesota, Detroit area in the Midwest, and then it's slowly spread all over, like even to the West Coast where I'm living, which this local case got me sucked into this whole thing, and I ended up cracking it. But it's also spread outside of the U.S. And so what I'm going to do is talk about the local case and how I got involved in working on this smiley face murders and all the work I've done behind the scenes.
Yeah, basically that's what it comes down to, is this is a private organization doing all the investigation techniques that are unproven by science, right? That's their the direction. Like handwriting analysis is probably pretty solid, a pretty solid science, all things considered. Maybe not as solid as like fingerprints, but handwriting analysis can be utilized. I mean, that's why we all have a signature, but criminal psychology is a little loosey-goosey too, but isn't a smiley face like the most common thing people draw or carve, right? That's the problem with the smiley face murders. Exactly.
Oh, I'm kind of an earth angel behind the scenes, and I'm coming out of the closet, so you guys know now. Anyways, luckily Kelly presented my whole presentation to the FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office of the Southern District of New York. And also
she's the woman behind the curtain, don't you know?
Kelly has brought it to the attention of the FBI Behavioral Science Unit on 3 separate occasions. And so they're fully aware of everything and all of my work and the circumstantial evidence. And I don't know if, because it's so spread out jurisdictional.
You're right, Maya. Grifters give cancer patients essential oils. Nothing surprises me anymore.
They just don't have the money and the resources, or they would have to do surveillance on the suspects. But anyway, so there's this local case that I was asked to work on. Dwight Clark went missing, it was about 10 to 12 years ago, from Bellingham, Washington. He was a student at Western Washington University. And so the big thing about these smiley face murders is all of these, they're mainly college-age young men, and they're all last seen stumbling and leaving a party or a bar. And a lot of times it's a bar, and they get kicked out for being oblivious.
I think like most, depending on the day of the week, I think most college-age guys are last seen each night stumbling out of a bar. I mean, I think that's a pretty normal thing but let's draw a correlation.
like kind of out of it. And so what I've been picking up psychically is that they're slipped GHB at a bar or at a party, and somebody tells them, hey, you want to go smoke some weed down by the water, meet me down there, and somehow they're lured to the water, and under the effects of GHB they're dunked in the water, and so there's no signs of struggle. It looks just like a natural drowning. Some of them have a little bit of air in their lungs where it wouldn't look like, you know, it was a drowning. Some, you know, it depends. Like, there are so many cases, and I haven't read the autopsies.
Are you a forensics or what like forensics pathologist? Do you know what to look for on like a death report? I mean, when it comes to how these individuals died, are you qualified to say that this looked like drowning, but it wasn't? Like, what's your credentials to make that claim?
On all of them, but the majority of them are ruled accidental death. And the irony is a lot of them are happening in Minnesota, Detroit, Chicago, cold areas, and usually during the college season and in the winter when, you know, it's like January and 3 a.m, who's going to go down to the river and jump in icy? A lot of times it's icy water. Nobody's going to go swimming, even if you're drunk by yourself and then just like sink into the water.
They don't have to go swimming. They're stumble drunk walking down by the water's edge. And they fall in, and the water's cold, and you're talking about the upper Midwest in January. That water will kill you in probably 2 minutes if you can't get out. And if you're wearing your clothes and they're bogged down, if there's ice, a lot of other factors come into play there.
Water, like, no, that's not happening. So that's my theory, is that they're being slipped GHB, and there's a group of them. I can't get into the details because it's an open investigation, but I want to bring attention to the magnitude of these murders and how many are happening, and that just 10 in the last year in Chicago. Research it. Google smiley face murders, drowning deaths.
Especially young men, an Entropy fan. Young men will do all kinds of stupid shit. Look up those parkour videos where these kids are leaping across rooftops and stuff, or there's videos where guys jump into like a hole in the ice from the top of a freaking cliff. It's people do all kinds of crazy shit. Yeah, she is definitely a little full of herself. She's the secret weapon, apparently. I cracked the case, but no one will listen to me. Sounds like Roger from Mud Fossil University. I discovered giants, and Harvard won't return my phone calls. Google research alert. Yeah. I'm I'm a layperson, right? Like when it comes to criminal investigations, especially, but I wouldn't be like, the forensics on this said that this person died from drowning, but if you look here, they have a little air in their lungs. What's that about? Like, what the fuck?
Pretty documented. Dr. Phil actually did a special on it. I have a blog that I did on Dwight's case specifically that I'll link in the description. But so Dwight's case, I ended up being asked to work on it by the family and friends of the victim. They were having a search dog come in from Idaho, a bloodhound. And so I'm known for locating missing people.
Have you all ever been someplace that's got a lot of graffiti where there hasn't been a smiley face somewhere on the around the murder scene?
Using Google Earth as a medium, I come up with GPS coordinates. So I was like, okay, I'll go down with the ground searchers. First, I went to the Bellingham police and gave them a map and said, this is where Dwight's remains are. They didn't act interested. They were like, whatever. So I was like, okay, I'll just work with the searchers myself since they already reached out to me, but I thought I should include law enforcement if they wanted to be involved. And at that point, they don't know who I am. I'm just some rando walking in with a map. They're probably like, this chick's crazy. Anyway, I'm proven my accuracy over the years, so people better start.
I would be like, hey, this person might be the one who drowned this guy. If you said, hey, his body's here.
Paying attention when I tell them something. Anyway, so what happened was this dog from Idaho, I met them. It was called the GP property, and now like Bellingham's actually turned it and starting to convert it into a park. But at the point when Dwight went missing, it was a locked area. Well, there's fences where you know there's ways for Dwight to get in apparently, but we were let in by the security of GP, Georgia Pacific, and so I had that map, and I'm like, well, I think he's over there by the logjam, and so literally this bloodhound took off and ran to the waterfront and tried to jump in the water. It was crazy, and so like literally, they're like, he's alerting so strong, and he almost tried to jump in the water. Like the handler could not even hold on to him. He was running so fast, like to my GPS. And the irony, well, I guess it's not irony, but we didn't find him that night. But the next day, Dwight's remains popped up in that log jam area, 50 feet away from my GPS coordinates. So I basically, and he was in water, so I couldn't even.
Evidence, like, and the fact that if you were accurate within 50 feet of a body of a murdered person in the location of the body, I'm suspicious of you now. She thinks she's Kate Blanchett's character from The Gift, I think. Which is a great movie. I love Kate Blanchett. Like, Kate Blanchett's like one of my favorites, but especially in Thor Ragnarok. Yeah. But The Gift is a good movie too. Yeah.
Even had it exactly, and he floated a little bit because human remains sink, and then depending on the water temperatures, they'll float up. And so the next day after we were down there, his remains were found about 50 feet from my coordinate. And so that case, I meditated a lot, and it turned out being connected to the smiley face murders. I found a smiley face under a bridge where I think Dwight entered the water, and a lot of other graffiti that I documented and started meditating and hearing things that I was like, whoa, what is this? And Google and research. And so ended up turning into 2 years.
Okay, hold on. I found a little report on the Dwight Clark case. Let me see. It's from ABC News. Let's have a look. It's 2010, so this is like not like new. October 7th, 2010, the body of Western Washington University and identified as missing student Dwight Clark had no signs of trauma. A preliminary autopsy report concluded today. Clark's body was found in a pond near the campus where he had attended college for only a few weeks. The 18-year-old's driver's license, student ID, credit card, cell phone, and cash were also discovered on the body. The report found that Clark's condition to be consistent with being in the water the entire time Dwight Clark was missing, and that his death occurred in the water. No external or internal injuries that would lead to death were found, according to the report. A toxicology report is expected in the next 2 months. Bellingham Mayor Dan Pike said that in a statement, "It is with deep sadness that we learn of today's discovery of the body of Bellingham on the Bellingham waterfront, likely that of Dwight Clark, a student whose disappearance in our community captured our hearts and left us hoping fervently he would be found alive and safe." The pond where the body was found has numerous docks and many boats that could make it difficult to find a body. Clark was a star student who sent thousands of text messages to his family and friends each month. His disappearance has puzzled authorities, who had spent more than a week scouring the Western Washington University campus searching for him. The 18-year-old had at last been seen in the early morning hours of September 26, when he left an off-campus party at Western Washington University to go back to his dorm less than a mile away. According to Bellingham authorities, Clark's case was classified as highly suspicious missing person case, according to Young, who admits he was baffled by the disappearance. Until today, preliminary autopsy shows there were no trauma wounds. Police would not rule out foul play in Clark's disappearance. Despite the extensive searching canine scents and numerous hundreds of volunteers, no evidence of any kind has been obtained to substantiate or indicate what happened to Clark, Young said earlier this week. Clark, there's a typo from NBC News. Typo says this whack. Clark was seen leaving the apartment of a friend's house at approximately 2 a.m. on September 26th. There are conflicting reports about whether Clark had been drinking at the party, said Young. But after 2 a.m., after that party, nothing. The college freshman who had started classes just a week before he disappeared, was not known to take drugs. And if he had been drinking the night he went missing, friends said he was not inebriated to the point of not knowing where he was or what he was doing. Yeah, but she cracked the case.
Project where I could hardly sleep. I guess I get like hyper fixated, like obsess on something until I completely, it's my Scorpio moon and ADHD. Anyway, so I definitely got to the bottom of it and handed it all to Kelly with Find Me Group, and he presented it to the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Southern District of New York, and the FBI was there, and it was all in their hands. And so what we need to do as community, as parents, we need to have these cases reopened, especially these recent ones, the 10 cases in Chicago. Like I didn't really even have time to like research the names and the dates and stuff, but it's like, you guys could look it up yourself. It came up on my news app because News Nation Now was doing an article on it. And so I was like, what? This is still happening? And like after my PowerPoint, which is interesting, the murders did slow down a bit, but it's escalating again. And just in that one area, like I had to take a break from it because it kind of took over my life and I was volunteering. And I'm like, this is dark, heavy stuff, you know? But now I'm just feeling this urgency for the family.
It's so weird that these people are doing their psychic work to find these like white guys when we have a literal epidemic, and I'm gonna get on a soapbox here for a minute. A literal epidemic of Native American and First Nation women just disappearing into the ether, just vanishing from the face of the earth. Just every day we have a new case, and nobody's talking about it. Instead, we're dealing with white college boys getting drunk after parties and falling in the water. If psychics really existed and really had this ability, go to these frickin' nations and help these native people out. Go to Oklahoma. Go to Four Corners. Go to South Dakota, where these people are disappearing from, and help these girls. Find these girls. Find out what's happening to these girls. Jesus Christ. Okay. Off my soapbox.
To have justice and have these cases reopened, and for the FBI to have pressure on them to help these families. Like, basically, I did all the work for them, gave it to them on a silver platter, and I'm sitting here watching more people go missing. Like, I feel helpless. And so I called Kelly with Find Me Group, and I'm like, what can we do? We've already done the work. And he's like, the only thing we can do is bring it to the media's attention. So this is the purpose behind the video. Media's even reached out to Kelly, and they've been wanting to interview him because they know we've worked extensively on the case. The whole group has worked on it, but basically me, I'm the one that did the PowerPoint and all the research for it. But we have a group of intuitives and retired law enforcement, and you know, we all volunteer, and there's also Arizona Search and Rescue Dogs that work hand in hand with Find Me Group. But they didn't work on Dwight's case. That was just a local case, but the whole death, smiley face, and group worked on it.
Oh, goodness.
And so,
sorry to sneeze in your ear.
I really wanted to.
I went to hit the I went to hit the mute, but I wasn't fast. Wasn't fast enough. Ooh. Ooh. All right. Since I brought it up, I'm going to go ahead and pull this over here too, so y'all can see. Across the United States and Canada, Native women and girls are being taken or murdered at an unrelenting rate. Facts about missing and murdered Indigenous women. There is widespread anger and sadness in First Nation communities. Sisters, wives, mothers, and daughters are gone from their families without clear answers. There are families whose loved ones are missing, babies growing up without mothers, mothers without daughters, and grandmothers without granddaughters. For Native Americans, this adds one more layer of trauma upon existing wounds that cannot heal. Communities are pleading for justice. So there is a movement to try to investigate this. You can go to nativehope.org if you want to learn more about this problem that's happening. And since the mainstream media doesn't cover it much, but I'll get back to our fun stuff. Sorry to gloom.
Bring awareness, and please share this video. Google smiley face murders. Look up local drowning deaths. It's always
the smiley face murders are not a thing, and these Native American women murders are. So just to reiterate that,
men found with
Native American disappearances. I shouldn't call them murders because they just disappear. They vanish. They vanish into the ether.
no trauma on the body in bodies of water, and it's usually in the fall, winter, and spring, and not during the summer. It's during the college days, college season, I guess, and it's usually around college.
You mean college kids at college campuses are at the college during the college season and not during the not college season? What a coincidence! This woman's definitely a psychic.
But not always. Like, it started where it was mostly college kids, but it's expanded where it's just young men in general that are targeted, and they're usually slip this GHB at a bar or party, and then they're just found in the water. And I mean, I'm not going to call the cops lazy. I mean, if there's no signs of trauma on the body, what can they do? But when there's a pattern of hundreds of victims, yeah, maybe not in your area, but Chicago, yeah, 10 in 1 year. Like, I'm sure they're working on it now behind the scenes, hopefully.
Do you know how big Chicago is? How many universities are within the metropolitan area of Chicago? How many bodies of water are within and around the metropolitan area of Chicago? Within the proximity of those universities, 10 drunk college students drowning after a night of partying. Sounds about right.
But can all of you guys please spread the word and bring awareness to these drowning deaths, because they're not going to stop. And we need to put pressure on the authorities to find justice, get these suspects behind bars, because I think there's a lot of copycat murders happening as well. There's this whole
Hello, Brentley. Good to see ya.
Formula, and I wish I could say more about it. But there's tons of circumstantial evidence, and it's spread all over the U.S., but it mainly started in Detroit and the Minnesota area. And, you know, Iowa, I'm pretty sure, the La Crosse River, there's tons of victims there. And now all of...
Thank you for bringing that up, Kip Davis. The Highway of Tears, Highway 16 here in British Columbia, is notorious for many dozens of unsolved murders of Indigenous women.
On the West Coast, I mean, I'm getting chills. But it's like something I'm passionate and obsessed. I feel like it's my purpose on this planet was to help solve the serial killing case. But I did solve it, but none of the suspects are in jail. So basically, I feel so frustrated. There's nothing more I can do. I put all the information into the right hands. So at this point, it's awareness in media and sharing. And I know I keep saying it, so I guess I should tie up this video at this point. And I'm going to leave the link to my blog on Dwight's case and more of the details in the subscription, or in the description. And so please subscribe, support my channel in any way.
She didn't mention this happened in 2010. That's been a while ago.
My volunteer work so that I could help more families, like and share, and maybe I'll do an update on this. Hopefully there'll be some developments and we could help stop this from happening and affecting more families. It's crazy. A lot of these families end up becoming my extended family, and I'm a support system for them. So I want to work really hard to give them justice. Like,
which is so toxic.
Sons, but they gain me as a family.
That is so toxic. They lose their son, but they gain. Did you hear what she just said? Let's play that again.
So I want to work really hard to give them justice. Like, they lose their sons, but they gain me as a family, you know? So, like, they're part of my extended family, and I want to protect and help them as much as I can. So it's extremely frustrating to know everything I know, and I'm so confident because of...
Boundaries, girl. Boundaries. Jesus Christ.
All the circumstantial evidence, and then for it to keep happening, it's extremely frustrating. So I love you guys. Again, thanks for your support, and I'll stop rambling. I'll end the video now. I love you guys. Take care. Thanks.
I suspend thought. I do not think about what I'm going to see. I do not think about what it might be. I do not think. I look out the windows if they're driving. I look at the trees. I stay focused on each moment.
Looking at the trees is important no matter what kind of woo you're peddling. Yeah, I've replaced your son and I have psychic powers. Isn't that creepy as fuck? Please stop contacting my family is what I would say. It's cute in a horror movie, like Jeepers Creepers. Yeah, there's a psychic. Whatever. Ugh.
As best as possible. I refuse to consider the situation.
And then it just comes to you? How does it come? Visions, voices, all the above?
Since one of them was, I can remember walking past the crime, because it was a fresh crime tape, into the 2-story condo. And on the first floor, I look up the stairs. Now, I don't know why I'm looking up the stairs, but suddenly I feel killer. I just feel killer. And I go, the killer lives up there.
Okay. And people just like, oh, you're right. Okay, so this next one, we have a psychic at Ed Gein's place. Now, if you don't know who Ed Gein was, he's the basis for a few horror movie killers. Starting with let's start with Toby Hooper's Leatherface, but also the Alfred Hitchcock's Norman Bates from Psycho, Toby Hooper's Leatherface from Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and of course Buffalo Bill from The Silence of the Lambs. Ed Gein is not really a serial killer in the classic sense, though he is often listed with the serial killers because of the extreme nature of his depravity. He was a ghoul first and foremost. A ghoul is a person who robs graves, usually, right? So he would go to the cemetery and dig up corpses, and he would bring them back home and make stuff out of their skin and bones, make furniture and lamps, and most notably mask and costumes and breast vest. He had a titty vest, basically made of human skin. Now, he did commit murders. There were 2 murders attributed to Ed Gein, which does prevent him from being a serial killer in any classical sense. Although I will bring up in a second here some other factors that come into play with that. But the first victim was a bartender I guess he thought she was immoral or a floozy or something like that. But there's a lot of lore attached to it that may or may not be true to his particular case. But regardless, he killed her. He shot her with a shotgun. And the second person he killed was a hardware store owner, right? And he actually had her strung up like a deer in his shed when they caught him. Now, the reason I said that he may still be a serial killer is there was some suspicion around the death of Ed's brother years earlier, and that Ed may have potentially been responsible for that death. However, that's again maybe be more speckled with folklore than actual truth. Same thing as the factor that his mother was overbearing, which is where Norman Bates gets his overbearing mother character from, or that he was trying to bring back his mother through occult means with these women's bodies, that he was damaged from an overbearing mother psychologically. There are some weird things, like his mother's bedroom was kept sealed up after she died. He boarded it up. No one ever went in there again until he was, apprehended. But the rest of the house was just disgusting, macabre experiment, with bones and skin and weird books and stuff. Now, the funny thing is they some people will claim that he was a transvestite or transgender person because of the breast vest and the women's face mask and stuff like that. But they even go as far as to claim that he was, that he had Jorgensen's book on his shelf, but which is not true because Jorgensen's book didn't come out until a decade after Gein. But after Gein had already been apprehended, so that was impossible to be the case. But the folklore around it grows, and people tell schoolyard stories. This was a small town in Minnesota, so word of mouth travels a lot faster, and fabrication can be fun for youths. So they add a little bit of flair to the stories as they go along, and we end up not knowing what exactly is true. And some of this stuff is published in books, even though there's no evidence that Ed had an overbearing mother, for instance, that she was part of the problem or anything like that. I mean, it's all speculation. All right, but these people go to touch Ed Gein's knife. There's the rifle he used to. That's what he actually used to kill with. Is that rifle?
So they don't know for sure if these were or weren't, but you think they probably weren't the shotguns?
These are the shot. Yeah, those are the family shotguns.
Right, but not the ones that he
No,
would
I
use.
don't think so.
Is that the same for the knife? or
The
they don't
knife
know?
is one of 3 that he's used. So, but we've had a lot of issues with the knife, more so than the guns, because his mom is mostly attached to the guns.
His mom's attached to the guns.
You know, she was basically the head of the table, basically because
Is that as loud as it goes? Jesus.
he was anything in life. That was George. Henry was his brother, which eventually leaving the house because of
The video is just really quiet. Sorry, guys.
How they did it, how the knife and really terrible. Like she felt like she wanted to kill people all night, and they had to take her outside.
I almost wonder if that's not psychological, because Ed wasn't a killer.
Yeah, no.
Ed was
He wasn't
messed up in a
violent.
lot of ways, but
He dug up bodies more so than a killer.
yeah.
He killed 2 women. What do you mean he wasn't a killer? He murdered 2 women in a small town.
He felt like he could bring his mom back to life, actually.
Yeah.
So that's why a lot of times he spent back.
No.
You know, stir her back up, so to speak. But there's been reports where that was actually.
Did you all even look into the Ed Gein case before you came here and started making crazy claims that he was a necromancer? That he was trying to bring his mom back, or that he wasn't a serial killer, or so he's a suspected serial killer, I guess is the thing. He's a murderer for sure, but he's a suspected serial killer because three victims is required to be a serial killer, and whether or not he murdered his brother is still up in the hunting accident is up for debate. But yeah, he did shoot his brother in a hunting accident when they were youths. But like, if you consider it even today, that Plainfield, Wisconsin doesn't even have 1,000 people. He killed 2 people in that town. So that's like a huge percent of the population that he was responsible for murdering. But no, he wasn't a killer. Shut the fuck up.
Flopping a little. I've gotten weird. Cynthia was on live and I got weird. Holding it stuff. She's like, I've investigated you long enough to know how you investigate. Like,
It's got a vibe.
she's like, this ain't you. But she's like, no, sit down.
Do you know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of the Velisca guy, where it's getting this little bit of apprehension, put this down, but yet Derek's really close to me, you know? And it's like, it's that type of mixed, like...
But that's just kind of the reports that have been coming with the news itself.
Per
So,
capita
so
murder
back
percentage.
in
I love that,
issue,
Ember.
Put a notice up there, like, you're going to grab this thing, make sure
That's one way to put it.
everybody's watching you, and if you get weird, you put it down and you take them outside.
Well, and it's not at all like I was like really going to do it, but I mean, I got just the emotions that were going through was very much the, oh, this is wrong. No, I would never, but I wonder what that would feel like, you know, just kind of like that thought went through my head. I'm like, that's not okay.
I mean, those are intrusive thoughts, but we all have them. Someone's getting on your nerve and you want to like stick an ice pick in their neck. Sure. We're only human. Wonder how much weight I've lost. Just looking at my tummy on there. Looks like I've lost some weight.
The claim with Midwest Spirit Seekers is when Dave LaValle was in here, they did the Delco experiment, which was the first time for this place to happen. They threw a
Yeah. Let me see if the closed captions will help. Because it's really, really soft. I got mine cranked up all the way. They did not do good audio here.
Never done it before. She did okay. He was getting influenced pretty bad before he even got back in here. And then, as I was watching the Instagram live that they were doing, which they eventually deleted because they didn't want the board to see, he held the knife, he held the shotgun, and he was just saying like he felt like sheer power.
That's all he said. There's no power here.
Mm-mm.
He felt power, like he squeezed them harder and harder and harder.
It was sick. I think it was during one of those moments where he wasn't totally lucid, and I think if he had come to and been doing anything like he was doing, he would have been.
That's a good idea to buy like an old jail and set up like exhibits about different serial killers in each cell. That's an interesting idea for a museum.
Knife on the floor, didn't realize he did it. He dropped a shotgun on the floor, didn't realize he did it. But Spencer was on the outside of the cell, and he was like, holding like, where is so-and-so? Where is so-and-so? Like, I thought he was going to get up and actually walk out to find him.
Chris, what are you doing?
But, and that's just one of those things where now, after all that all happened, it got really intense watching it on Instagram. Well, as of right now, Tom won't let those guys come back yet, just because of how everything went. And after all that, this whole place was like weird for 3 days. And they actually had a 10-year-old come in here, and they had to actually take her outside because she thought she was going to get sick, just being here. So.
Chris, what are you
No,
doing?
I get that. I'm getting sick.
What else are you feeling?
I had a flash of it, like you get Velisca.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious if it was the same flash I got.
It was body hanging.
Oh, no, not the same one then.
It was. It was brief.
So,
Okay.
I see someone asked about women serial killers. So, yeah, and Eileen Wuornos is the only one that a lot of people can think of because she's famous for doing more of a man style of serial killing. But there have been women serial killers, prolific ones that were poisoners, especially early on, and they would help women dispose of abusive husbands and things like that. Now, the methodology of women serial killers is so much different, and the psychology and the motivations behind it is so much it's so different than what the psychology and motivation behind most men serial killers and the serial killings of Eileen Wuornos were. But there's people like I got a list here. There's Mary Ann Cotton, a poisoner. There is Gesh Gottfried, a German serial killer poisoner. Della Sorensen, a Nebraska woman who poisoned at least 7 people. Martha Wise, an American woman who poisoned 17 family members. Giulia Tofana, an Italian woman who sold powerful arsenic-based poison called Aqua Tofana to women who wanted to kill their abusive husbands. Over 600 deaths are attributed to her poison. There is Tamara Ivaniltina, a Soviet serial killer who used poison thallium, resulting in 13 deaths over 11 years. Caroline Grills, an Australian serial killer who used thallium to poison her victims, predominantly well-off families. And there's also other kinds of killers. There's like Bluebeards and Black Widows and stuff like that too, which are offshoot of serial killers. The Bluebeard and the Black Widow are the same thing. It's just where they marry someone that's wealthy, that they kill them, inherit their wealth, and then do it again and again. Amelia Dyer. There's Azerbaijan battery, but I don't know how valid those claims are. They're kind of folklorish. Anyway.
He did gut his people.
Yeah.
But he was never a hunter, though. That's
No,
the thing.
but
He's never a hunter.
He does.
He literally shot his brother in a hunting accident. If that happened to me, I'd quit hunting too.
Parents clean animals.
Mm-hmm.
I hog in the shed.
Yep.
I didn't know what to expect to feel, but I didn't expect to feel sorry for him, and that's what I feel is sorry for him. Like he was very confused.
What a stretch. Oh, hey, how's it going, friends? Oh, this? Don't even worry about it. I'm just peeling an apple.
Oh, yeah, we're not going to watch this one. But we'll come back to this topic some other time because we got to wrap up this week in weird because we're at the 3-hour mark and I haven't even got into the Paleo Peak with Don's segment. So I'm going to wrap up our first delve into supernatural serial killers right here and now, but we will be revisiting this topic in the future. There's a lot of other facets to it that we didn't even get to talk about. We got serial killers who did, that's still on the list here. We got serial killers who performed occult rituals or believe they had supernatural or divine abilities or divine guidance or supernatural guidance, demonic guidance in their killings. We have people with spirit boxes and spirit boards trying to communicate with serial killers. So we have a lot of stuff going on. And of course, we have evangelicals claiming that all serial killers are possessed by demons. So there's a lot to, there's a lot more to unpack here in this facet of the supernatural research when it comes to serial killers. I thought we'd get through more than just the psychic detective angle of this, but I guess not. And that's fine. That's fine. Dividing this into segments gives me more content to cover. It's been a great show, though. But I do need to wrap up This Week in Weird right here now. So please remember to be kind. Take care, and we will see you next time. All right, and live from the Hive audience. Don't leave, because I want people to stick around for this, because I really think Dawn's videos deserve more. Thank you. And need to deserve more attention. So I'm going to take us a quick little intermission here. Got a little Pride video thing I'm going to show. And then we will be back with the bestiary. Or not bestiary. We're not doing the bestiary, but we will be back with Paleo Peak. Hello. Sorry, I had myself muted there for a second. But welcome back. Thank you so much for sticking around. And got one last little segment of the show to go. A good friend of the channel, Don Prothero, has a channel of his own. Currently only 297 subscribers, but he's just getting started. He is a scientist. He's a geology and paleontology is his passion. And he's made some great videos over the last few months about the topic. And I figured I would feature some of them, see if I can't get him a little more love. So today, we're going to talk about horses. It's a little loud. Especially after that last video where they were really quiet.
Horses and humans have a long history together. Ever since horses were first domesticated about...
Yeah, Don did a stream with me and Wild World. When was that? Was that last July? Regardless, we all did a stream together about the Loch Ness Monster, commemorating the Loch Ness Monster.
500 years ago in the steppes of Central Asia. Horses transformed human culture from their importance in pulling heavy loads to their value as a source of transportation and for cavalry of various sorts that have long been essential to warfare. Only with the invention of the automobile a little over a century ago did horses become less essential for human culture. Horses were long thought to have lived only in Eurasia, and not until Columbus brought them to the New World in 1493 did they spread to the Western Hemisphere, become a part of culture here. But in 1833, Charles Darwin was on the voyage of the Beagle and found an undoubted horse tooth in Argentina, mixed with other animals that had vanished during the end of the last ice age. In 1841, Sir Richard Owen described small fossils from the London clay that he called Hyracotherium, or Hyrax beast, dating back to about 55 million years ago. They were once thought to be horses, but now they're known to be paleotheres, a group that has branched off early from the common ancestor with horses.
Paleotheres.
Fossil horses were also found in Europe. So in 1873, Russian paleontologist Vladimir Kovalevsky, at the same time British zoologist Thomas Henry Huxley, both postulated horses had evolved in Europe.
Huxley was Darwin's boy. They were tight,
Ethereum to Anchitherium to Parian to Equus. In 1876, Huxley sailed to the United States to give a lecture tour and talk about the evolution of European horses. He visited the famous Yale paleontologist Othniel Charles Marsh at the Peabody Museum, who showed him his amazing collection.
Thomas, if you can come up with a topic for us to do, I could probably get Donald to come back on and chat with you so you can have him discuss them. His big mammals are his main thing, big prehistoric mammals. So if there's something along those lines you're interested in, like, if you wanted to discuss the size limit on how big a mammal can get compared to dinosaurs or something like that, that'd be interesting to see. Just I can probably set you all up to chat again. Just let me know and I can run it by him, because I did talk to him about doing this to try to help him out a little bit with getting this off the ground.
Fossil horses from many time intervals of the Cenozoic in the Rocky Mountains. As Huxley said, quote, at each inquiry, whether you had a specimen to illustrate such and such a point or exemplify...
Bill and Ted are playing in Alberta? Hell yeah, Kip.
Transition from earlier to less specialized forms to later and more specialized ones, Professor Marsh simply turned to his assistant and bid him fetch box number so-and-so, till Huxley turned on him and said, I believe you're a magician. Whatever I want, you just conjure it up. Huxley then threw out his planned lecture on how horses had evolved in Europe, and instead displayed diagrams provided by Marsh that document how horses evolved in North America, and only occasionally did they spread to Europe as well. Huxley's little sketch of Eo Homo, riding Eohippus, is a whimsical side of this important discovery, the first well-documented example showing evolution to a modern species. This simplistic, straight-line evolutionary view is still correct in its broadest outlines. Horses do get larger, their limbs and especially their toes get longer, their teeth develop higher and higher crowns. But this is the way it was understood in 1925, a full century ago. In the ensuing 100 years, thousands of additional horse fossils have been found, showing that simple linear patterns is not a good representation. Instead,
It's just not a good example of a good representation of how evolution works. It branches off, and there's back evolution, and it spreads. It's not a line or even like branching lines like what you see here. Is not even, well, there's probably a better better depiction of it than like a straight line.
Evolution is bushy and branching, with many species overlapping in time. In one quarry about 12 million years old in northern Nebraska, there are 12 different species of horses who lived side by side.
Wow, 12 species.
Let's go back to the beginning. The earliest.
Considering how few species of horses, how low species diversity among horses is now, I mean, that's pretty impressive. 12 species, because there's not even 12 species of horses that exist right now. So there's, horses, the Przewalski horses. There's 5 species of asses, and 3 species of zebra, and a quagga. So yeah, it's about the same amount of species as that actually exist in the entire world right now.
Horses are found in beds around 52 million years old in the Rocky Mountains, and their skulls and teeth look almost identical to the earliest tapirs and the earliest rhinos, showing how close they were when they first began to diverge.
Look at them
These
toes.
horses the size of a beagle. Once called Hyracotherium or Eohippus, they now belong to a variety of genera, including Prodorahippus, Sifrippus, Minhippus, Arenahippus, and Xenocohippus.
So cute,
About
though.
50 million years ago, a slightly larger,
They're like little puppy dog size horses.
advanced form, Orohippus, is found in the Rocky Mountains, along with Epihippus around 47 million years ago. In the Big Badlands of South Dakota, we find Mesohippus, in beds ranging from about 37 to 32 million years ago.
Now look how tiny that skull is.
And its 4th finger was lost from its hand, so it walked on only 3 fingers and 3 toes.
Ungulata.
36 million years ago, a slightly larger Myohippus had evolved, with 3 species of Mesohippus found in the same beds as Myohippus. Central toes of Myohippus are now large enough that they contact one side of the ankle bones, a key indicator of the greater and greater loss of side toes.
The evolution of horse feet is like one of the greatest pieces of evidence of evolution in the fossil record. I'm just going to say that right now, hands down.
The expansion of middle toes. About 24 million years ago, Parahippus appeared, one of the earliest members of the equine branch of the horse family tree. It was the size of a German shepherd, with even longer limbs and reduced side toes. It also had higher crowned teeth, suggesting a gradual adoption of a diet of gritty vegetation. Meanwhile, another side...
Yeah, horses are special at... Their teeth are specialized for grinding up vegetation with a lot of silica in it, which is why horses can live in a lot of places where other herbivores can't. Like on... What's that island? Shoot, I can't remember the name of that island. It's off of Nova Scotia. We did a whole piece on it. There's the only large mammals that live there, the horses that escaped from a shipwreck, and they'll live there for hundreds of years because they can live off that gritty grass. They don't live great lives, but they live.
Horses are known as the Anchotherines. They continued to retain their very low crowned cheek teeth, focusing on a diet of soft leaves, while the main branch of equines are evolving higher and higher crowned teeth. Modern horses have extremely high crowned teeth with very deep roots. They continually survive the grinding of their tough, gritty grass diet, and always have additional tooth surface pushing up from below. By contrast, all Anchotheres have low crowned teeth like the earliest horses, even though some of them, like Megahippus McKennaI, were as large as a living horse.
They just couldn't eat. They couldn't go through that silica heavy plant matter like modern horses can.
Years ago, we see a huge radiation of different 3-toed horse lineages, including Merychippus, Pliohippus, and a wide range of Hipparions. These evolved mainly in North America, although some Hipparions escaped.
There was a giant tapir, Ember, I think. Yeah, giant. Hold on. Giant tapir. Tapirus Augustus. Still wasn't very big though. There's an extinct species of tapir that lived in southern China. How big was it though? It doesn't look like it was horse-sized. At least not this height. It weighed 1,373 pounds though. That's a big old tapir. Let me show you the diagram I'm looking at that makes me think I wouldn't call it horse sized, maybe pony sized. Where are ya? There you are. Okay, there. Yeah. So about hip high. Well, maybe chest high. Anyway.
Of the deeply pocketed fossa on the face of the hipparians is one of the key features that helps distinguish the different groups. About 3.5 million years ago, horses escaped North America and crossed the newly formed Panama Land Bridge, where they evolved into a unique group of horses known as Hippidions. These horses had deep notches below their nasal bones, suggesting they had a short proboscis or even a trunk, which might have helped them feed.
Cool!
About the same time, the first truly
South American trunked horses. Now that's what they needed in Zarahemla. That's what the Zarahemlans needed. Trunk horses with trunks.
Toed horses appeared, beginning with Dinohippus and culminating with Plesippus and then the modern genus Equus. Today, all living horses, zebras, asses, and donkeys walk on a single middle finger bone and a single middle toe bone. But every once in a while,
a horse walks.
A horse is born with fully formed side toes, sometimes even bearing a hoof. These horned horses were thought to bring good luck, and Julius Caesar famously rode one into battle. It turns out that early in horse embryonic development, there are still buds for 3 or 4 toes. But the
That is
development of
cool.
these
Come on,
toes is
guys.
normally suppressed until the gene switch that turns off side toes fails, in which case a horse is born with his ancestral 3 toes again. Nevertheless, every horse alive still has the genes for side toes like those of its ancestors, another striking feature of their evolution. During the Ice Ages, horses of the living genus Equus were widespread over North America, Eurasia, and Africa. There's still a lot of controversy over how many species of Ice Age horses can be recognized, although many are not known from complete skeletons. But even their DNA, which can be compared to living horses and zebras, helps us sort them out. Of the horse species alive today, Przewalski's horse is generally the closest to living horses. Found in cave paintings of our ancestors and once widespread over the Eurasian steppes, it was thought to be extinct in the
They are adorable.
wild and only preserved in zoos, although it has since been introduced to its native habitat in Mongolia. There are only 10 valid species in the genus Equus, including 4 species of zebra, plain zebra, mountain zebra, greve zebra, and the recently extinct quagga of southern Africa, 4 species of wild asses, kyangs, and onagers, in which donkeys were domesticated. This is a small fraction of the diversity that horses once exhibited. As the extinct quagga and the nearly extinct Przewalski's horse demonstrate, many of these species are vanishing from the wild, leaving only a few species of zebras and asses plus our domestic horse as the only common equids left on the planet.
All right, so that's Dawn's channel, and yeah, it's not getting a lot of traction. Only 68 views. This is good stuff. This is from the actual mouths of scientists. So if you're interested, go over there and subscribe to. Hold on, I'm gonna drop the link so y'all can subscribe. There you go. All right. So that's for you guys if you want to go over there and subscribe and send some love. But yeah, this has been a little bit of a paleo peek for you with Dr. Donald Prothero. Appreciate everybody sticking around for that. Please remember to be kind, take care, and we'll see you next time. All right, live from the Hive audience. It is time to wrap things up. We're actually over time. Usually 3 hours is about what I run. Sometimes I don't even hit the 3 hours, but the sun is shining outside. I have a few things to do today before I head out to the pub crawl thing, the pride crawl. So appreciate everybody for sticking around. There we go. Get get the day going. Appreciate everybody. Appreciate y'all. I am with you tomorrow night, Maya, right? I just want to confirm that. I'll be on Bad Science Sunday. Let me see if there's any place I can send you guys. Customization. Let's see. Redirect. What's live? We got R and Raw. Got Talk Heathen. Caitlin Conrad. Oh yeah, we're doing that paranormal PhD speed run with Caitlin Conrad. Yeah, we're saving that. That's where I'm sending you guys to. So stick around and it'll redirect you over there. More paranormal nonsense and shenanigans. All right. For real, into the show now. Be kind. Yes, I'm going to be Vandy this week. All right. Be kind. Take care. See you next time.
There's an office and a building and a person and a chair, and you paid for it all, though you may be unaware. You paid for the paper, you paid for the phone, you paid for everything they need to deny you what you're owed. There ain't no you in United Health, there ain't no me in the company, there ain't no us in the private trust. There's hardly humans in humanity. Now the procedure that you're needing ain't the cost-effective route, and only 2% of people end up winning a dispute. So if you get sick, pray to God for help, 'cause your doctor's gotta pray to United Health. Way back in 77, Mr. Richard T. Burke started buying HMOs, putting federal grants to work, made 50 billion buckaroos. Last year the Warren Buffett of health, the Jeff Bezos of fear. Now CEOs come and go, and one just went. The ingredients you got, bake the cake you get. But if you get sick, cross your fingers for luck, 'cause old Richard T. Burke ain't giving a fuck. Commoditized health, monopolized fraud. Here's the doctors we own and the research we bought. They own the pharmacies and a lot of the meds. They should start buying graves to sell us when we're all dead. There ain't no you in United Health, there ain't no me in the company, there ain't no us in the private trust. There's hardly humans in humanity. There's hardly humans in humanity.